this time, I'll call the February Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I'll ask that you stand for the invocation and the pledge, and Jerry will lead us in the invocation and John in the pledge.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we are grateful and thankful for the opportunity to assemble together one more time to do the business of your county. Father, we just ask now for your guidance and direction, Father, in making wise and prudent decisions for your people. We thank you now and we bless your holy name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I asked if you have a cell phone, will you please turn it off or either put it into vibrate mode? Otherwise, we'll collect $20. Okay, we're down to item number C, conflict of interest disclosure. Is there any conflict that needs to be disclosed by one of the commissioners? If not, we'll move to item number D, the approval of the agenda. And just to make sure you understand, it was amended. If you guys want to vote on that one or vote on it all together, that was the item by David as it related to the tax value settlement.
A motion to approve the agenda.
Got a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. We're down to public comments, and Katie, you said we did not have any? All right. Down to legislative updates, and I read today where Keith was on his way to Raleigh, and I'm assuming that Bazemore is probably up there too. So we're down to item number G, items for consent. Any of these that you want to pull for further discussion?
4 and 5.
Okay, 4 and 5. Okay, so we'll move them down under, neither one of them is on here, so we'll just, is it okay if we put you at last, or you want us to move you up so you can leave? Dolores? Okay. How about if we move you up underneath the manager's office? We'll let the two of you go first. Any other? I'll entertain a motion to approve the remaining consent items.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion and a second. Heard two second. People. Okay. All those in favor of approving the consent items, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. All right, we're down to item number H, item for discussion, Beaufort County Schools. Superintendent Cheeseman. Good evening.
One other joining me.
Okay.
Thank you for having me this evening. Chill in the air. First and foremost, I know I was just coming to answer any questions that you had regarding budget information. Willie Mack is going to help us with that. But I also just wanted to announce we completed the required 5-year NCDPI facility survey. So I'm going to hand this to the county manager so you have that. So that has been completed. Thank you. But specifically, our Board of Education will look at that 5-year study tomorrow night. They'll have a presentation on that. And again, that's a 5-year study that comes out from NCDPI. And we had a third-party company come in and help us with that. So it's a a different opinion, different approach, but with that, the county manager can share it with you. And if you want to see the actual presentation from the company, you're invited to our meeting tomorrow night. But with that, I believe, Commissioner Richardson, we responded to the federal, state, local budgets that you wanted. We put it in a larger font so you could see it. And I believe the county manager has sent it to you. So Mr. Carwin and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
First of all, thank you for getting larger numbers.
Yes, sorry about that. Just honestly, the way they print out off of some of those software packages, we don't control, so we went back and the team just did it in a different spreadsheet for you.
Okay, any questions? I'm going to ask the first one.
Sure.
In the 80 million, 81 million, does that include the 3.8 in COVID-19 monies?
I believe
It's-
some of, page 2.
It's the last little box on the bottom of the page, where it has the current budgets, state, local, federal.
Yeah, some of it is, some of it's not. What I mean by that is the part of the COVID money that you see, some of it has dropped in and some of it's not dropped in.
Okay.
And so considering that, we've been very blessed as a county to actually have some of this COVID money come to us. As I was saying to you last Friday, blessed in the sense that sometimes we don't know it's coming, with a shorter detail in terms of how it can be used and even a deadline of when it has to be used. But for what you're actually looking at, some of that has dropped, and as you can tell on that sheet, some of it's already been spent. As an example, if you look at the $455,000 for school nutrition, that was spent by the end of June in full. And then there's some line items there that have not actually been dropped yet, that we've been given notice over the last month and a half that it may be coming to us, but we don't know when it's coming. But some of it's there, some of it's not there just yet.
Any questions?
Part of your question,
Okay,
if you'll
Will?
look, the first page, your last column, that's how much money that's currently in our budget that we have remaining at this point as of January the 21st. Excuse me, when I built the report for you all. You'll also see in the PRC 165 is in an allotment. If you go to, I'm pulling multiple reports for you all. This is a summary, if you go to the DPI website, of all the COVID and emergency relief money we're getting. Sometimes it doesn't drop when they say it is or it's expended. But currently, the last column is how much we have on hand and spent, with the exception of that, or excuse me, on hand to spend, with the exception of that $45,188.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Well, I have some questions.
Talking about the COVID money, that right-hand column, and there's the total remainder is 1.9 million remaining. Do you have these funds in hand when you say dropped, or with you said the exception of the 45,000? What's dropped and what hasn't?
Essentially, federal money and state monies, we request it and draw it down. The last 3 or 4 items there are federal dollars, and those grants have recently been approved, so the monies may not have crossed over into an allotment where we could draw those funds down. And when those monies aren't available, there again, we try to keep 3 months of carryover to address the personnel within those federal grants. But sometimes we do not get a federal grant approved until November. And at that point, I'm actually moving someone out of federal money because they don't have the money available because whatever reason the allotment or the application has not been approved. I have to move them into local money, pay them. When the money drops back, I refund locally. So technically, the ones that have not dropped would be more or less those last ones. So even if we had an expenditure, we couldn't do it. I'd have to pay them local and then pick it up later with a refund.
That's a pretty big chunk, 1.6 million. Has that dropped, or?
It is available when the expenditures occur. What we have done with the COVID relief money is try to safeguard it from the standpoint of we did not know where we were or where we were going. with the split year, with the remote learning as well as the in-class, and then how many were on a bus, we were afraid of what that cost was going to calculate out for us. Also, due to the COVID and the remote learning, we have about $3.5 million of capital computer issues that we have because of a 19-year-old laptop. It does not work for the function of a classroom for a teacher to try to teach a child with an old desktop. So we're getting laptops that will allow them to wander around the room, take notes on that, will then throw it to the screen so the children could read it in class or at home. And it also gives them the flexibility to monitor when they do get a point when they can sit down. We've actually bought monitors for them, or extra monitors, so they can monitor the curriculum that they're teaching as well as the children that are Zoomed at home.
The other part of that, Commissioner, is we're trying to be really thoughtful and diligent in not just buying things to buy things. And so specifically, we didn't take that CARES Act money and just suddenly wipe it out. Recognizing that we're likely going to fall into a new school year also, we're trying to use that to what the board's discretion is.
Do you think you're going to use all of the 1.6 million?
Absolutely. And very similar to what Mr. Carwin has said, we've somewhat inherited, a technology fleet that's, after doing inventory, almost 19 years old across the district. And so yes, we've had a really good job over the last few years of adding Chromebooks, adding iPads. When you start going back to what the technology of what teachers are using, much of what they have in the classroom is so outdated it won't run much of what we now have at the state level and local level. So we will be utilizing a fair amount of that money in order to update what the educators need inside their classrooms to be current. And with that, we started our curriculum council, as I spoke to you last Friday about, and also started a subcommittee for technology where teachers are represented from each school, and really started looking at the types of devices and the information that they would like to have. So we forecast probably the first wave of that being about $750,000 alone.
Okay. Going to appropriated fund balance, you still have $389,000 outstanding. Are those projects in progress in the process of being bid and accomplished? Or are you going to use that this year?
We expect to use some of it, but there will be a probable carryover to that also with any type of cost savings on some of the projects that do occur based off of the expenses that are less than what we thought they would be. But we have done a pretty good job with our capital, and I would like to say that our board wants to have much of that, if not all of that, done by April. Just being thoughtful in terms of what next year's budget would look like.
Okay. When you say current budgets at the bottom of the page, $45 million is what the state has allocated. That's mostly teacher pay.
Right here.
Sure.
About,
But not all.
Yeah, not all. You've got, within that state pot, you have, 01 is usually where we receive the bulk of our funding for our teachers. But in that, you also have about $6 to $8 million that are set aside for children with disabilities, exceptional children, Title I. So that's a total summary, but it does not go into how the money apply to the per pupil cost.
It's a conglomerate.
The last page, sir, will give you somewhat of a breakdown of those.
I've only got one page.
It's in the handout, sir.
It's the one right there.
Turn to the last page. So we wanted to try to give you some idea of how the breakdowns of those funds were, and that they could go apply to the general population of the school system as opposed to the special segments of the population that the other funds were restricted to.
And that last page from your Friday request should also show you almost 10 years of enrollment. I think you had asked for 3 or 5, but that should show you 10 years in the left-hand column.
I'm looking at the $7 million fiscal year 21 estimated fund balance shortfall. Now, let's be sure fiscal year 21 began when?
Are you talking about the...
Well, it's in red and it's in parentheses, and I don't know much about bookkeeping, but
No, that's basically, you all asked me to anticipate what the fund balance would be at the end of the year. And so on the last page, if you're going to look at per pupil expenditure, usually it's done as expense, not a budget. And if I'm going to carry over, estimating I'm carrying over $7 million, it does not need...
so you're going to have a surplus.
I'm going to carry it over, yes, sir. And if
Okay.
you look at the categories in which they were in, they're about $500,000 in local at 985, so there's estimated about a 3.5 million in federal alone.
What happens to that federal money if you can't use it?
Oh, they'll take it back after a certain amount of time, absolutely. Yeah, as Willie Mack just said, you typically get about 27 months to deal with it.
John, did you have a question?
You just don't want a reversion, I can tell you that. Yes, sir?
On the fund balance at 7 million, that's up significantly from what it's been prior years. Well, it's up a little, down from 2020, but you're really up from 19, right?
Well, I would say you're operating differently under the circumstances, absolutely.
Okay. So that's savings for expenses that is driving that up? Or is it additional revenue from COVID?
I would say it's both to some
Okay.
degree, absolutely. And moving forward, you still don't know what we're going to look like next year. As I was actually explaining to some of our high school students at Northside and Washington High today when I met with them, and they asked me about what next year would look like. I mean, right now, the governor says 6 through 12 students can be on Plan B. I don't forecast that to change for the rest of this school year. So some of your spending practices might look a little different than traditional school calendars. However, your General Assembly has not changed your school calendar from, those general statutes for next school year. So right now, you're led to believe that school may be 5 days a week next year, more of a traditional setting. So I say that to say this. We're going to have to meet the kids where they are, wherever it is, based off of whatever rules we're playing under. And as I said last Friday, we don't know what those rules are truly going to be just yet.
Commissioner Revolt, if you're looking at just the bottom line, you have to look at both columns. 19 is expenditures, 20 are budgetary items or carryover. The carryover didn't reflect at the end of the year total in 19, but I'm budgeting and showing it to you here in the current year's budget. The other thing is that Fund 8 also reflects about $900,000 of a Golden Leaf balance that's currently budgeted. And that is for the boat building
Yes.
and the CTE programs.
Yep. Yes, sir.
So that brings you pretty close.
Ed, Randy, Stan? Randy?
Did you have any expenses that you're not going to get the money back from that was a surprise?
Honestly, I don't know if we're going to get money back. Again, there are some things that go on. For example, when you're looking at all of your PPE and the COVID money, I know our legislators have done a really nice job of trying to bring things down to public schools. At times, you don't know if you're getting reimbursed for things, but I'll give you a good example like athletics. All the protection that goes into that for our children to be able to play with that. We've not seen actual money for athletics in that regard. However, your high school athletic association is tapping into their, the reserve funds. And so I believe that their board of directors just approved a $4 million care package across the state. So we might see some things from that. Most recently, I sat with all athletic directors and asked them to literally provide me any receipts that they use their own personal money for in order to help students be better prepared in their athletics. But also I asked for principals to do the same if they were using their general budgets to try to do what they thought was best at the time. Unfortunately, sometimes you're playing catch up to it, as some of the monies trickle down afterwards. But I would think that there will be things that we won't get reimbursed for, and I do believe that some of that could relate to transportation issues. Just, again, depending on what the school district will look like next year based off of what lawmakers say we can do. Absolutely. But I also look at this in this regard of just being very thoughtful about where everyone is during this time. Meaning, we know as a school system that we received monies for CARES Act and COVID fund, but remember that money is essentially brought to you not to advance you into a place that took you to a new level. It's meant to really bring you up to speed to where the kids need to be now. And so we've tried to be really thoughtful around using that CARES Act money, COVID monies, in order to be able to pay for things that would help us protect our local budgets while we utilize state and federal budgeting too. So we try to be really diligent in that regard. But also moving forward, when we work with our board, the board will have a budget meeting, like a budget retreat sometime in February. And again, we're going to be really thoughtful that it's a very hard time for our county, our community, in terms of what type of budget requests. So, I can't say with certainty what I think they would ask for, but I'm pretty confident the board is aware that you have other entities in the community that may need a little bit more.
Ed, did you have a question? Okay. Thank you very much. And it's the best analysis that I've seen.
Oh, sure.
I think in 6 years, Willie Mack, so heads up. So,
Well, thank
heads up.
you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
The next item is the update from Jim Madison, our health director, on COVID-19. And Jim, I know you're on the way.
Hope everybody's doing well. Well, let me start with letting y'all know that we are on day 315 since the first case in Beaufort County for COVID. So it's been a long, strange journey. Starting off though, showing this slide here, which is what I've been kind of looking at to see how much flu has gotten into the county as well. So this shows from the state lab's perspective, the red shows the COVID, the dark blue shows flu, and you'll see that there has not been any really increases in flu. So as of this month, I have not seen a high influence of flu in Beaufort County, and neither has the state. So looking at COVID for North Carolina, the general trend throughout the whole state is moving in the positive direction, the right direction, where we want it to go. So this is good news, and again, this is throughout the whole state. Looking at our numbers, as of about 2 o'clock this afternoon, we have done over 34,821 tests on residents in Beaufort County. That's about 60 to 70% of the population has probably been tested at this point. That's guessing that about 15% of these tests are probably repeat tests of some sort. So I still would say 60 to 70% have been tested. Out of all the tests that we've done, we've gotten 3,923 positive in Beaufort County. That means about 8.3% of our population has tested positive. And for every positive, there's probably 1 or 2 cases that never got tested. And so that's probably more along the lines of getting like 25 to 30% of people probably have had COVID already, and you may not know. We've had 148 hospitalizations and 77 deaths. I have 5 other deaths that I'm waiting for the death certificates in order to determine if they are COVID-related deaths. The average age of all the deaths was 78.1 years old. And as of today, there's about 395 active cases in Beaufort County. We have 10 people in the hospital, but none of them are on a ventilator. I have one nursing home that has an outbreak, and then 2 residential care facilities that are going through an outbreak. Just as a reminder, this is where we were last year, or last month, I'm sorry. I'll get the right period in there, but this is last month's meeting with y'all, and this is what the state looked like, and you saw how we were in the dark purple area, and this is what it looks like today. This would be about 38% drop in case numbers for Beaufort County. So we are now set at about 75 people for every 10,000 residents, and that equals 354 cases that we've received over the course of the last 2 weeks in Beaufort County. So the graph here showing the actual the epi curve, or the distribution of positive cases, and we see that they both graphs show the trend in a positive direction, and so we have at this point gone through this about a month period where our county was really hit hard with COVID cases, and we're starting to see it go down now in the right direction. This shows the number of active cases in Beaufort County, which shows the same trend, that big spike in numbers, and then we're back down to about almost 400 per active cases right now. Showing the regional by zip code, you can see that all the different zip codes are down except for 2 areas, which is Aurora and Edward. Both those are small populations, so they get heavily influenced by numbers, small numbers. So we'll keep an eye on those 2 communities. And as far as the impact on our hospital system in this area, you can see the numbers are also improving, and the system is not overly taxed right now with COVID. This is a new graph that I put together because I told y'all the average age was 78.1, but then what's the distribution of those deaths? So I lumped these up together to show you where the deaths are occurring. So you can see that 65, 74, 75, 84, and 85, 94 are the biggest hit populations in our county. Each of those represent about 27% or 30% of the population. So if you add those 3 groups together, that's about 90% of all the cases, or deaths, I should say. Some other information, talk about testing. So last week we did 1,079 tests in Beaufort County between us and our partners, and 12.8% of those were positive. So this is down from our high in early January, which was 22.8. So again, all a reflection of the outbreak that we went through as a county is on the downward trend. And we're now back to our pre-Christmas numbers as far as that positivity rate goes. We did increase some test sites at the request of the community. So we added a Tuesday and a Thursday. The Tuesday at Cornerstone Church from 9 to 1, and then BB Chapel 11 o'clock to 5 on Thursdays. We continue to do testing at the health department from 9 to 12. And we still have testing going on in Aurora, Bellhaven, and the Spring Garden Missionary Baptist Church. As far as notification and contact tracing, we've cut back on contact tracing a good bit. It's been scaled back because it's very taxing and time consuming, and the state put out some guidance for us to cut back. So what we're presently doing is making contact with all positive cases and talking with them, and then trying to educate them on how to talk to their contacts. And then if they have people that are high risk, we'll take and follow them. And also, if we see that, or we feel like it's an outbreak setting, then we'll go ahead and do contact tracing to follow that. So the big news since the last meeting that I was here talking to you all about is the fact that we are ramped up our vaccination efforts. One of the big changes that you'll notice on this graph is that the phases that were presented at the last meeting have changed. If you remember last meeting, it was like the 1A category, 1B, 1B1, 1B2, that kind of those numbers. Well, they converted it to these new phases, and it's both simplified it and added some headaches to it. But simplification is that it's pretty clear cut now that healthcare worker in a long-term care and a resident is phase 1. So any healthcare worker falls under that phase. Older adults is now 65 and older. So anybody that's 65 and older, before they had it 75 and older, 65 and older with high risk, and so it made it a little bit more confusing. That also made it more competitive, I guess you could say, for that phase that we were at. But that's the phase that we're in right now, is this 2. Phase 3 would be frontline essential workers. 4 are adults with high risk for exposure and increased risk of severe illness if they've contracted COVID. And then, of course, phase 5 is everybody else. So we're currently in phase 2. That includes all the 1 and the 2s together. In our county, we have about 12,800 eligible residents in our county. So as of today, 4,373 of those residents have received their first dose. So that's about 34.1% of the eligible population. So about 1 out of every 3 eligible people has actually got the vaccine, the first one now, which is but if you look at the whole population, then it's 9.3 of the total population. So almost 10%, or 1 out of 10 people have received it. 477 have completed the series as of today, which means about 3.7% of those eligible and about 1% of the total population. The second dose allocation is set aside. So no matter what struggles we're having right now for that first dose allocations, it doesn't apply to the second dose, because for every first dose that we have given, the state has the second dose reserved for us. So we'll be able to meet all the second dose obligations that we've already set up for. And if anybody's been through our pod where we've been vaccinating, you know that one of the last steps that we have is that second appointment, our second dose appointment given, and you'll know when to go back and get that. So about a month from now, that second dose number, a completed series, should reflect closer to what that first dose number looks like. Other vaccine information to share. One is that we have been allocated by the state to receive 200 doses per week. Most everybody probably knows that already because we've been putting it out. How upset we are with only getting 200 per week. But that's what we have, is 200 per week for the next 3 weeks. We have scheduled 300 per week for the next 3 weeks, so your math doesn't look good there. However, with our partners, which is Vida and Agape, we've been able to get enough to meet at least the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be worried about the third week from now, but I'm confident we'll be able to get that. So as of right now, this week and next week, the next 2 weeks, we have enough doses for all our appointments. We continue to fight for this allocation process, and we're not alone in this. This last week has been really hard on us for this allocation. I talked to the commissioners during the budget retreat how complicated this is, and we are not the only ones. My general feeling is that our doses have been pulled in order to really get to the mega centers, to beef them up so that they can reach their levels that they're promised, which is like 4,000 or 5,000 a week numbers. So we have basically suffered because of that, I think, with our numbers. There are other options to try to get more vaccine out there. So I'm going to try some of those. I did try it the last iteration to get allotments. There's some doses that have been set aside for historically marginalized populations. I tried to get 200 doses for this week in order to do some targeting, but I was denied that. So I did get that. So this coming week I'll do it again. I'll try to get more coming in to address that, and because I'm doing everything I can to get more doses in our county. Our capacity is 800 per week. That's first doses, so 1,600 shots if we count the second dose and the first dose going at the same time. So that's what I consider our capacity at the health department and county, with county help, without us having to shut down some of our services. So if we had to, we could ramp up even higher if we wanted to shut down services, but I don't think we need to. So my plan is if we got more than 800, it would be to try to get it to some of the providers throughout the county and let them try to start hitting some of their high-risk population as well. So that's the plan if we ever get to the point we're receiving more than 800 per week. And I hope we get there soon. Some other information to share with you is that the Beaufort area transit system, or the BATS, if somebody's having trouble getting to an appointment because of transportation issues, they can call this phone number and they'll arrange to take them to an appointment. It has to be an appointment. It can't be one of those where no appointment's necessary, just drive up and wait. You know, you may be there for 3 or 4 hours. It can't be something like that. But if you have an appointment, call the number and they'll get you there. We do ask for you to look at it as a last resort option because there's only a limited number of trips that they can make during this whole, with the amount of money that they've been granted. But we don't want anybody that cannot get to an appointment because of transportation issues not to be able to make an appointment. This does continue to be a long process, and I keep asking for patience, and I know it's very hard. You know, we've only been doing this now for 3 weeks. This is 21 days that we've been doing this, and I expect us to be doing it until March time frame, just for the phase 1 and 2, and then we got to start doing phase 3. And phase 3 is actually going to be a lot more people. You know, it's probably double the amount of people that we're talking about for phase 1 and 2. So we're going to be vaccinating for a long time in this county, and I don't know what it's going to look like, but we're starting to already look at phase 3 and 4 planning, because phase 3 is frontline essential workers, but it's really hard to tell somebody who's a frontline and who's not. You know, you're going to have to trust people on that. And then phase 4 being high-risk people. How do you know the high-risk person doesn't come there saying they're essential workers? And it becomes really an honor system, and it makes it more difficult. So I think the state's going to roll out 3 and 4 almost all together at one time. And so that's going to be a huge chunk of vaccines that we're going to be trying to get out. And that's when we'll have to be doing 800 per week numbers. And then depending on all our other providers to help with those as well. So we will probably do some prioritization in phase 3. So there's some of those essential workers that we'll identify as essential, and not disparaging those other people, but we know that there are some that we really want to thank, and teachers are a prime example. They're going to be very essential, so we're going to probably hit them early on in phase 3 and target them specifically as an example. Any questions?
Jerry?
Okay, I got a couple of questions. If you can answer this, do you know the percentage of minorities that have been vaccinated?
I do not know yet the numbers. The state number is 11%, I think, has been vaccinated. We have asked if they can break that county level data down to us so that we can compare. I think our earliest efforts was not as good as it could have been, and so what we did was got an advisory group together to try to help us reach the minority population, to help them with increased participation and access into the system. And I think it's been pretty successful because I've seen a higher number of the minority population going through the pods now.
So you do have a plan to vaccinate minorities?
Well, I'm hoping to tap into that historically marginalized population pool that's set aside just for that reason. I want to work with the churches. I want to bring some doses in and work with the churches, especially in the rural areas that have harder internet access and phone coverage and stuff like that, to try to see if we can't get some small mini pods done and try to hit that population with that specific doses.
Is there something that we can do as a board to assist you into getting those doses that you're referring to?
Well, I guess one of the things would be just helping make awareness of it. And we're trying to get as much of the black population as possible, the Hispanic population, tied into the hyper reach so they'll know when it's being given to them. And then just working with the churches to try to identify, where locations to put those in. So if there's places that you know of that would be good for us to target, then that would be helpful. I think putting out the safety of the vaccine would be important to be made, and the telephone number to call the call center so they can ask for information and get that out there. I think those are the things I could think of right now, but I could.
But one of the frustrations is that, because I know I do this, and some other preachers do it as well, is you convince people that they really need to be vaccinated, and then they can't get through. Right. So that is why I'm asking the questions that I am asking.
Well, I'm cognizant of wanting to do this. I think I have 3 objectives. I want to get everybody the vaccine that wants it. I want to do it equitably, and I want to make sure that my staff doesn't get torn up while they're doing this whole process. So that is one of my objectives, is to try to make sure that we're equitable in that distribution. So anything that y'all could think of that would be helpful, I'm definitely willing to entertain. So the access to care is important. So, one of the things that would be is helpful if you know of somebody that is not able to access the system that we have, then to help them navigate that system would be also be nice. We did work last week with the Vidant to transfer some over to Agape, because Agape focuses a lot on the minority population there, so they were able to start standing up and doing some vaccination as well. I think they're almost at 200 doses they've given out in the last week and a half or so. So there's a lot of these little things that we're trying to do right now to do that.
Thank you.
John?
Jim, do you know what percent of the nursing homes are taken care of? Population?
Percent? No, I know 2 of them are. 2 of the nursing homes have been vaccinated with the first dosing, and there's a schedule, which I don't have on me right now, but the other 3 are scheduled. Oh yeah, there's 3 other ones that are already scheduled.
So I don't know what the population of those are, but it sounds like we're not even 50% at the nursing homes?
Well, the 2 biggest ones have been hit, so
Okay.
we're probably above 50%.
Okay. And what percent of the 4,373 vaccines were done here? Do you know? Or do you know how many you've done?
I do. I'll have to. Let me think. It's on our website because I just put it on there today, but now I think about half of it, a little over half of them were done here.
Okay, so the others are people are finding their way to other locations.
Well, Vidant did a bunch at the beginning,
Yeah.
so they would have done probably about 500 of those at the beginning, and then the rest of them would probably be from locations that are outside of our county.
I think it's important for the public to know that this past week, this current week's vaccine allocation, Pitt County got allocated 8,100 vaccination. 8,100, we got 4,
Yeah, the whole county.
the whole count. And, you know, it's not Jim's fault.
Randy, did you?
This new variant of the COVID that's out there, has it shown up in North Carolina, and what does it look like when it gets here?
The state has said they believe it's here, but they haven't had a positive case that showed up at the state lab yet. So that's where it stands. It's more contagious, so it's easier to contract, but it doesn't seem to have worse symptoms that are associated with it. The vaccine, though, has the ability to recognize the spike protein on those new virus variants, and so it will work against them. If you've had COVID before from another variant, you're probably going to have at least a somewhat of a immunity suppressed reaction to the variants as well.
Stan?
Yeah, I got a few questions, Jim. Number one, you said we're at about 9.3% of the population that's been vaccinated with the first shot.
Total population.
How's that stack up against other counties around the state?
I don't know.
I would suggest we're a little higher, wouldn't you think?
Well, we were about a week and a half ago when I saw the numbers. We were like at 5% or close to 5%, and most of the counties around us and the ones that had similar size were behind us. I think McDowell was the only one that was above us that I saw.
Oh, really? And the 9.3%, is that just what's vaccinated in Beaufort County, or does that include if they go to a super site?
It includes, it's by county of residence. So
Okay.
It's all Beaufort County residents.
Okay, so they could be getting the vaccination in Greenville as well. And
Well, I mean, with that mega site being stood up, I think we're going to see a lot of our population get vaccinated there.
so we don't know those numbers yet.
That includes those numbers.
Those includes, okay, very good. So that's still pretty good numbers for our county. Moderna versus Pfizer. I'm hearing Moderna is a little better on the variants and a little stronger, has a little more kick to it. Are you hearing the same thing?
What do you mean by kick?
I mean, it just does a better job.
Well, I think it did have a slight higher percent of efficacy, but I think they're pretty close to the same.
Also, have you, as far as bad reactions to the first wave that we've given out, have we had anybody hospitalized yet?
We had one person that went to the ER because of dizziness and faintness after having hives, so we were worried about it being hyperactive, allergic reaction to the vaccine. So, but that turned out probably to be more nerves than it was. He did have the hives, the itchiness, but Benadryl took care of that, and then the rest of it's probably more nervous.
More nerves? I ran some numbers. I don't, they're probably not that accurate, but I was just looking at number of vaccinations given out nationally versus in number of what I'm hearing of bad reactions. I guess they're really bad. I got 1 out of 1,600. Are you hearing anything like that?
I haven't really.
You haven't seen those numbers? Okay. Teachers, so far they qualify by age. The third round, they'll be at the front of the hopefully the front of the pack, right?
That's correct. I mean, I haven't gone to officially prioritizing the groups yet, but they'll probably be one of them.
I would like to put in for teachers. I mean,
I
we
think
really
we all
need them
agree.
back to doing everything they need to do to keep classes running smoothly. I've noticed over the last 3 days, we've had very few cases. Of course, it's been the weekend. I'm looking at maybe 35 cases over the last 3 days, somewhere in that range. That's pretty good, comparatively speaking. Do you think we've hit a plateau and are coming down now, or?
Yes, I believe we are coming down. Right now, I don't
You're an
know.
optimist, and I appreciate that.
I am an optimist. And as soon as I say that, so.
I know.
But I don't know how long it's going to last. But I am very hopeful for the numbers that are going down right now. And those as far as weekends, we don't test on the weekends, but we still process the positives on the weekends. So usually on a Saturday, we're really processing Thursday's numbers. On Sunday, we're usually processing Friday's numbers.
Oh,
So
okay.
Monday and Tuesday are oftentimes a reflection of lower testing on the weekends. So that's why a lot of times you'll see Monday as being one of our lower days, actually, if you look back on the...
It was low on Saturday and Sunday as well. So that's
I think it
good.
was 6 today. That's because, again, not many people were getting tested on Saturday.
I'm done. Thanks. Appreciate it, Jim.
Hood,
I don't have anything.
Ed. Jim, thank you and Brian for what you're doing and for putting up with me for about a week. My telephone was ringing, emails, some pretty nasty stuff on Facebook, and it was all about supplies. And I think one of the things that happened is most people thought that they had to come to Beaufort County. If they lived in Beaufort County, they had to come here. In my neighborhood, we've got people going to Plymouth, and we've got people going to Swan Quarter, and I'm assuming we've got a lot of people that are going over to Greenville now. One of the things that we need to help people that are elderly in your neighborhood, I would encourage you, if they don't have anybody looking out for them, to try to help get an appointment for them online and get it anywhere. I mean, it doesn't make any difference. I mean, the idea is, if they want it, let's get them someplace to get that vaccine. But they do need some help. And I went and was involved in a meeting with Brian and Jim and two of our people in the emergency management that handles the operation. And we were trying to make some changes. One of the things I was getting a complaint on is, why did we drop it from 75 down to 65? And I was told that was a decision of the governor. And, that really threw a kink in it, because all of a sudden it created another 8,000 people in Beaufort County that qualified. So, like you've been telling me, be patient, Frankie. I'm asking everybody to be patient. It's going to take a while, but if you can get it in Raleigh, if you've got relatives someplace that'll help you get it, that's what you need to do. We're doing some, I'm sure, in Beaufort County that's in outlying areas, but the purpose is to try to make sure we get this population of 65 and up that want to take the vaccine as soon as possible. So thank you very much, Jim.
One thing, I'm very familiar with Wake County. My wife's mother lives there. She's 84. She just got her vaccination, and it's very difficult in Wake County. You're doing a much better job than they are in Wake County.
Right. Yeah, Wake County is one of those other counties that's getting hit hard with the lack of supplies. You can see which ones are having more supplies brought to them. So.
Jim, you want to move into the health department hazardous pay?
Yeah, sure do. So as I've alluded to before, the staff has been troopers during this whole process. I'd like to really emphasize the fact that it's been very chaotic over at the health department at times, and the fact that I have not really had a staff turnover during this time tells me that these people are really dedicated to the whole concept of public health, and they've really stepped up. But that being said, I do have them oftentimes out testing people in the cold and the heat. I mean, we were testing back in July and August when it was 100 degrees out there. And then we got, them out in the, doing the pods. And one of the biggest things is that they're constantly in contact with people that potentially have COVID. And then I noticed that some of the other counties around us was given some hazard payouts. So I broached the Board of Health and asked them if they would approve a hazard pay. And so they were given a couple of options, and they did approve for me to come and ask for $1,200 per person hazard pay for the staff that work there. So that's 44 full-time equivalents and one full-time contractor who's been working with us for 4 years now, and she's been heavy into the COVID operations that we've been doing. So part of that is a budget amendment that was taken $64,714 that was going to go towards temporary COVID staffing and to move it over to the general health salary and fringe numbers in order to give those 45 people that bonus. And the whole amount would be covered by the state, a state agreement that we have, so there wouldn't be any county dollars involved.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, is there a second? And have a second. Any discussion? John?
This is a one-time payment, right?
One
It's
time.
not going to go into the base salary.
No, it's just a one-time bonus.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Stan, did you? Hood? All right, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed, carried 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Thank you all.
We're down to Kevin. Did you see Kevin in the back? Oh, here he is. Excuse me, Kevin. It's hard to tell who people are with masks on.
Yeah. Good evening. Beaufort County's been awarded a $400,000 CDBG Community Development Block Grant, Building Reuse Grant for Project River Breeze. The county was awarded the grant in December, and they received their release of funds letter on January 7th of 2021. We need to adopt a project ordinance for $430,000. Again, the grant is $400,000. The other $30,000 is for application preparation and grant administration. Pamlico Air, who is the ones that will be doing the building, has agreed to pay that $30,000 for application preparation and administration. So, as we told you before, there's no out-of-pocket expense for the county. So we need to adopt the project ordinance, and we would also, I would request that you designate Middies Commission to administer the grant.
Got a motion, second, and a second. Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
The next item is Department of Social Services. Is Melanie in the back room, or, okay? You must have been halfway.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight I'm here to request permission to advertise and fill one social worker one position. This position is responsible for transporting children in foster care to and from parental visits and also supervising those parental visits. It is a critical position to ensure compliance with orders of the court and for the safety and well-being of children in Beaufort County. So we would respectfully request approval to advertise and fill this position.
You've heard the recommendation.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is not a new position. We're filling an existing position.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Any other question? Got a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? If not, everybody, those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're down to Christina. Northside Water System Backup Generators, Phase 2.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
The Golden Leaf Foundation awarded Beaufort County $366,465 of grant funding to provide generators as well as automatic transfer switches at the Yatesville Booster Pump Station as well as the Beech Ridge Booster Pump Station. Construction activities for the original scope at these two sites are now complete. Currently remaining in the contingency line item is $28,539. Staff and as well as the engineering firm looked at the best way that we thought to be able to spend that additional funds. It needs to be something that's still in the original proposal to Golden Leaf. Therefore, we would like to request that we would be allowed to spend those funds for the installation of an automatic transfer switch at booster pump station number 42, which is the Hunter's Bridge booster pump station, as well as to provide air conditioning units to control the reduction of heat as well as humidity to protect the electronic controls at the Yatesville booster pump station and the Beach Ridge booster pump station. Staff would like to request that you would approve the ordinance to amend the project fund to move the contingency funds to the project fund.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, second? I'll second. Discussion? Entertain we've already got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. You want to go to the next item, Christina?
Yes, sir. The next item is dealing also with generators. It is a recommendation to award a contract to Wilson Roads Electrical Contractors. This is dealing with a standby generator for the Health Department. During the November 2nd, 2020 meeting, the board voted to allocate funds from fund balance regarding the CARES Act funding to provide and install a standby generator at the Beaufort County Health Department. That was based upon general consultation with subcontractors. After we'd received those initial estimates, further investigation at the actual systems that are in place at the health department, and consultation with an electrical engineer determined that the initial quotes from the contractors did not meet the requirements. Therefore, we consulted with the electrical engineer. He went in and did a design of the project. Basically, what happened is the electrical service to the building was larger than what the contractors initially thought. There's actually an 800 amp service that provides or that services that building, which is larger than what is needed for that building, and the contractors missed that initially, but there's actually an 800 amp main distribution panel that's there, and what they had initially quoted was more along the lines of a 400 amp ATS. Therefore, that's why this quote is for a little bit more money. So this is a 125 kW Kohler generator, which would be a natural gas generator, a automatic transfer switch. So the recommendation is to award the bid to Wilson Roads Contractors at the price of $111,800. Again, this is funding that would come from the CARES Act funding.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second.
Question.
Yes, sir. Hood.
Christina, on that fuel for that unit, is there an alternative fuel for it?
No, sir, we're just doing a natural gas. That because there's a the heating system at the health department is natural gas, so we already have natural gas at that location. So we're going to put the generator right located at the rear of the building. We already have the gas meter there, and so it will be natural gas, so it'll be a constant fuel supply. We don't have to worry about bringing in diesel trucks or anything like that to refuel.
Gee, it really sounds great to put all of our eggs in one basket. There should be an alternative fuel on this system, because I don't care what fuel you got, it's not reliable. If you're going to have an emergency situation, you need an alternative fuel.
Well, if you have a diesel generator, you only can put diesel in it. I realize you could get another supplier for diesel that could come in.
I thought most of these generators, you could run on alternative fuels.
I'll go back and check with them, but most natural gas generators are only natural gas, because remember, your natural gas is coming in from your main trunk lines from Raleigh. I mean, Granted, in the news line, or in the news this past weekend, there was an issue with supply, but again.
That's right, and there's a problem with supply, and mostly in the wintertime, because you get restricted in the use of it if you're using it for certain things. So have we checked to see whether we would be restricted in the use of driving a generator during the winter when pressures are low?
I will check into that, but normally governmental agencies are high on the supply line. The other thing that's going for us is just like because of the location of the health department being that close to Vidant, like on the electrical grid, that's the first grid that's turned back on. So I don't know for sure, but my thought would be that we would be in the location that we would not be.
I just have a problem with putting all of our eggs in one basket, and definition of an emergency. Most of the time, they're unanticipated events, and what happens if you wind up with the natural gas being knocked out? We're on the end of the line on natural gas. We're at the end of the line. There may be some loops, but we're still toward the end of the line. So I think we ought to look at the alternative and see if there's an additional cost for an alternative engine.
Alternative engine. I'll look at the cost, but all of the information and the guidance that I've seen from emergency management, and Brian, you may be able to speak to this, but for the most part, when natural gas is available, the recommendation is to go with the natural gas.
I understand that, but I'm saying natural gas may not always be available, and if you're preparing for an emergency situation, you need an alternative fuel.
Christina, at our water plants, I'm assuming they're all diesel.
They are all diesel, but our water plants are located areas that are not, natural gas is not available.
But you can provide diesel just by increasing the size of your storage tank. We're getting natural gas out of a pipeline that somebody else controls.
Right. There is no storage tank on this unit. It's a smaller unit with a smaller footprint.
Oh, yes. I understand perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an engineer, too.
I understand. I know.
Okay.
I know.
Would it be possible to flip a switch and use LP propane versus?
Some of them have dual. Some of them are dual. You just have to change the module around. Some of them use natural gas and propane.
Yeah, it's the nozzles. The nozzles are different size. Orifices are different.
Right. I don't think it's quite as simple as flipping a switch, but I think they're.
I would think it would be much more cost effective to be able to do that than it would be able to switch diesel, from gas to diesel.
Yeah, you can't do the two with diesel because the engine is totally different. And even like the maintenance schedule, sizing a generator that uses sizing a generator that uses natural gas versus sizing a generator that uses diesel is different. The maintenance on the two separate engines is different because a diesel generator, the way that it burns is totally different than the way that a natural gas generator burns. And the way that you have to run it in your preventative maintenance program is totally different.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to look at this before we finalize it.
Randy?
Yes, Christine, I'm interested in knowing if local folks, now I know some of this stuff is specialized, and you're probably not going to find a local person to bid on this stuff, but I'm really interested in trying to keep money in Beaufort County. So if we could have the name of where these, like Wilson Roads, where are they from?
They're out of Greenville.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We sent it out to, Wes sent it out to, I think, 3 different contractors. The person that's doing the gas, Wilson Roads is out of Greenville, but the mechanical contractor that will actually be doing the gas piping and the subcontractor for him is actually a local contractor here out of Beaufort County.
Good.
So anytime that we talk to contractors, we do that. We recommend or request that they use local contractors if they can.
Well, in Board of Education also, they have the other bidders, listed, not much more information, just that they, to know that other people are involved. That's great.
What's the wishes? We have a motion and a discussion to look at alternatives. How time sensitive is this, Christina?
I can certainly go back and request information. I mean, it's just a matter of, I don't know if the funding is, Brian, if there's an issue with releasing funding.
There's not an issue with releasing funding. You just have to go back on a redesign now.
Yeah, the question is, do you want me to just go back and research if you can do alternate, a second fuel source?
How long does it take, excuse me, how long does it take you to do all this rework?
To go back and to redesign, I mean, if we actually have to go back and redesign it, it could be 1 or 2 months.
I'll make a motion, go ahead and approve this.
Before you get too deep into this, let's back up just a minute. I have deliberately not provided a solution to this because everybody says I'm a smart aleck. The solution to this is to use propane. It's a matter of a simple switch and nozzles. If the engine is designed to do it, it's a phone call. That's all there is to it. So let's don't start jumping off cliffs. The world's coming to an end, and we have to redesign and all this kind of mess. You don't.
The issue, the Seaboard building, the old generator at the Seaboard building was a propane generator, and it was a small generator. And we had 2 propane tanks, and every time there's a storm that comes in, you have to get in line for them to come in and to fill it. And when it operates, you have to get in line for them to come back and refill it, and it depends on the size of the tank, how large of a tank that you have.
But we're talking about providing for an emergency situation, and we're talking about the backup in case Oklahoma explodes, where the natural gas comes from. We're talking about a backup, which is not a big deal.
So you're saying to keep it a natural gas and then just to add to the generator to have it to be able to switch to propane?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I think the first question is, can it be done? If they can't,
Yeah, they can do it.
you have nothing to do.
Yeah, they can do it.
Right.
It's orifices. It's the orifice size that feeds. One of them has one specific weight, and the other one has another specific weight. You change the orifices for the flow properties. But this is done every day.
You want to
So can we approve this and then just change that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, that's fine. And then I can go through that during the submittal process.
It's a minor change.
You want to give her the authority to make the minor change in the motion?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, well, we got a motion on the floor. Any further discussion?
Can you clarify that motion for us? Because it's been back and forth. I want us to be clear on where we are on our motion, please.
Yes.
Say it. Well, that we grant the, whatever it is Christina wants, with the stipulation that she take a look at alternative fuels to be propane, and if propane is an alternative fuel, that we do include a unit that can burn propane or natural gas.
The primary natural gas, secondary propane.
Yes.
Okay, does that clarify for everybody? Everybody understand what, you got it?
I do, but with the understanding that if there's additional cost associated with that, we only have this cost you're approving tonight.
Well, the additional cost should be minor compared, should be less than 5% of the whole contract. So, I mean, you're not talking about a lot of money.
Tank's still there, isn't it? Still got a propane tank? They probably, no, they're gone.
Well, let Christina solve all those problems. That's what we pay that big salary for.
I can get the tank, I just can't get the money. That's
I'm offering you the money if the rest of the board agrees.
5% of the,
Yeah, you can go 5% above your.
I'm not,
Jerry, will you and Ed agree to a 5% uptick in the cost?
For the alternative fuel.
All right.
if it's more than 5%, I'll bring it back to you before I approve it.
Hood might fund the difference. Okay. All right.
I can't fund the difference.
All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Okay. That's unanimous. You want to go into the heat and air conditioned duct cleaning?
Yes, sir. COVID-19 has increased the awareness of building air quality and air filtration for many. As discussed during the October Board of Commissioners meeting during the approval of the installation of UV lights and ionizers in county buildings, another component of improving the air quality is duct cleaning. Over time, dust accumulates in ductwork, which can then be blown into inhabited spaces, which may affect the health of occupants. Duct cleaning helps to eliminate the dust buildup within the ductwork and lessens the particulates in the air for the occupants to breathe, thereby reducing the dust returned and filtered by the HVAC filters, possibly extending the life of HVAC systems. Staff received an estimate from a local contractor certified by the National Air Duct Cleaners Association that has successfully performed duct cleaning services in the past for the county, the city of Washington, Vidant Health, and many other local commercial businesses. A breakdown of the estimate is provided and totals $103,971. Funding to clean the ductwork in the courthouse was previously allocated and is not included in this value. You'll see 2 pages back a summary of this where it lists the multiple buildings that this includes, which is
19.
Yes, sir, 19. I counted earlier, but I had forgotten. So 19 buildings for that $103,000. So it's basically averages anywhere from $2,000 to the largest building is social services, which is $27,000. Again, a reminder that this funding would come from fund balance, which was generated through the CARES Act funding. As recommended that the board approve this request and associated budget amendment to utilize the available funding to improve the air quality of the existing buildings. Just to speak, this is something that we have done. We did this as part of the detention center renovation when the inmates were not in. The company that came in that did this, Carolina Air Systems, came in and did this over a Saturday. And you may have seen this on TV or on commercials where they come in and they go into the interior of the ductwork with a mechanism that's basically like a whip. There's different attachments that they put on the end of it where it goes in and I hate to say that it beats it because that sounds very destructive, but it goes in and it hits the particles, and if there's things that are attached to it or attached to the walls of the ductwork, which I can assure you there are things that are attached to the walls of the ductwork, it hits that and it breaks it loose, and they have a vacuum that's following right behind this whip mechanism and it sucks it out. So and then they go back in with a video feed after that to go in to see it. I was here when they were doing it. They do not only the duct work, but they also actually do the air handling units as well. And it is a sight to be seen. They did, again, like I said, they did one of the units in the courthouse that feeds the detention center. And again, I was extremely, extremely nervous as far as what would happen. I was nervous. I made them come in a few weeks before the inmates were scheduled to come back in, because if that whip went in and was very destructive to that ductwork, I wanted to make sure that we had time to go in and to make repairs before the inmates were coming back in. But it did not destroy it like I was expecting it to. But the before and the after pictures were pretty amazing. So I highly recommend that it's something that we do at this time because of, the increased emphasis on air quality. And then it's also something that my recommendation is that we continue to do this on a regular routine basis in all of our county buildings so that they do not get back to the condition that they are currently in. I think it's something that throughout the years, it's a technology that did not exist 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but it exists now, so it's something that we can start doing. The county buildings, the HVAC contractor, we do, as much as we've been able to do in the past, we use some bio spray in order to help with air quality and to help with air freshness and that type of thing as far as smells. But before we started doing that, we did have some air quality issues, but now, for the most part, we do not, but we definitely want to keep this, we want to provide the best air quality that we can for all of our employees in all of our buildings. So this is the recommendation.
Ed?
You partially answered. You say you want to do it as often as you can. How often do you want to do it at $103,000?
No, sir, not as often as I can.
I mean, how long would this, I mean, is it every 6 months or once a year?
No, it would be, it depends on the building, for one thing. It depends on the type of units that we have. And it depends on the type of ductwork. All of our buildings, we have so many different buildings that were built at different times. The ductwork is different in different buildings. We have some buildings that have the mostly hard ductwork, and then the insulation's on the outside. We have some that are the reverse of that. We have some that's a lot of flex ductwork, which has a lot of ends. It's similar to what you have in your home, where it's collapsible in and out, which means that it's not smooth on the inside, so there's a lot of ups and downs, so it can collect more dust.
How often are you talking about?
It could be every 4 years, every 5 years. It just depends. I don't, not every 6 months, I don't even think it would be every year. I think it would be more every 4 or 5 years. And we really don't know because we've never done the building, so what we'll do is...
I don't have a problem with it, but CARES money gonna run out after a while.
Oh, I understand.
It's going waiting here.
What the plan will be is to get him to come back in and to do an inspection with the camera to go in to see how bad it looks.
So you wouldn't have to do them all.
Exactly.
Maybe you just had to do a portion.
And then we can get them scheduled, similar to what we've worked out with a roof replacement plan, a carpet replacement plan. It would be the same thing with the ducts. And again, until we can get them clean and kind of get a baseline, we don't know.
Those air units that we put in, infrared or whatever it is that kills the fungus and whatever as it goes, that should reduce this thing once every 10 years. You know, it should stretch it out far beyond what it would have been without that.
I sent an email to Christina. One of the concerns I've got is that some of the older ductwork, especially the flexible, the R factor has been improved so much that you can get, you know, you're a lot more efficient. But you said most of ours are the, is the steel or galvanized with the insulation on the outside.
Most of the main trunk lines are that, and then you have the flex that go off of it to the individual supplies.
It would be interesting to know what the dirtiest building was. That would be interesting to know, if you could do that.
It would be interesting to know, but everybody probably doesn't need to know that.
Christina, when you get ready to have this done, the contractor, call Randy and get Randy to go around to the 19 buildings and let him be our judge about which one is the dirtiest.
Is it like the age of the building, is that what's doing, or the type of, ductwork, all of that?
I would guess the age.
Does he go through with the video before and you go, oh my gosh, it's like parts of the artery?
Sometimes.
Have you been able to smell a distinctive pressure or air? Good.
Okay. Anybody else got a lovely question? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. You want to move to your last item,
Yes,
Christine?
sir, gladly. My last item involves a request to unfreeze 2 positions for the water department. The senior distribution mechanic, this position performs the installation, operation, replacement, repair, and maintenance of water lines, meters, functions as a crew leader on the installation crew. This position recently became vacant due to an employee's voluntary resignation, and also our meter services supervisor. This position has been vacant since August 2020. Both of these positions were included in the fiscal year 2021 budget. Therefore, funds are available for these positions, and I request that these positions be unfrozen and we be
Motion
allowed
to
to
approve.
advertise.
Have a motion to approve. We need a second before we have a question, or before we have a discussion. Is there a second? Okay, now your question.
How long, you said the funds are here for the senior mechanic, system mechanic, is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir. For
Okay, and
both
how
of
long
them.
has that position been vacant?
This particular position has only been vacant since January 6th.
January 6th. Now, the water material supervisor, water service supervisor, meter man, how long has that been vacant?
August.
Since August. Now, I don't have a problem, but I got a question to ask you. When we spent this $4.5 million on new meters,
Yes, sir.
wasn't that supposed to eliminate some of these positions?
Yes, sir, it did.
But this wasn't one of them.
No, sir, this is a supervisor.
Okay, supervising how many people?
Originally, we had a lead meter reader and we had 4 meter readers. We now have a supervisor and 2 meter readers.
Okay, now how many meters are we still reading?
Almost 15,000.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Katie?
Can we go back one? You guys actually did the motion. I didn't have a first and a second for the HVAC system.
I did that.
Yeah. Jerry and Ed, or Ed and Jerry? Ah. Christina, you get these guys. Okay, we're down to break time. We're going to take a 15-minute break, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're down to the public hearing on Pamplica Yacht Works. I need a motion to go into the public hearing. Got a motion. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This public hearing is to receive comments on a request to revise the Economic Development Performance Grant to Pamlico Yacht Works. I think as everybody knows, Pamlico Yacht Works designs and manufactures energy-efficient MGM motor yachts. The company moved from 720 Page Road to 230 Clark's Neck Road to acquire more space at a reasonable cost, bringing jobs and investment to a plant that was closed by Parker Hannafin in 2018. The company will now, over 5 years, create, or cause to be created, an estimated $9,800,000 worth of investment, which was previously $10,780,000. And it will invest in building renovation and equipment, and a minimum of 166 new jobs, previously 207, an average wage of $41,073, which was previously $45,637 over the 5 years. The proposed county performance grant will be based on these investment and job creation numbers, with an anticipated amount of $110,000, previously $155,000 over the 5 years. As everybody knows, the performance grant requires the company to meet its capital investment and job creation goals in order to receive the proposed grant funding. If jobs are not created and or held for the time period specified, that is the grant period of 5 years plus 1 year, the Economic Development Performance Grant will be returned to the county proportional to the number of jobs not created. The county intends to use general fund revenues as a source of the funding for this grant. The public benefits derived from this performance grant are an increase in tax base and the creation of new jobs in Beaufort County.
Any questions of Martin at this time? I don't think we had any citizen to sign up for the public hearing, but I'll ask, is there anyone here that would like to speak on the on the Pamplico Yacht Work performance grant? If none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion, second, and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Martin, you want to continue?
Yes, thank you. The agenda abstract very much states similar to the public hearing information, so I won't repeat all of that. I would add, though, that while the MGM Yachts was in the Industry Ready building, they did manufacture the first MGM Yachts in Beaufort County, which is now on its way to Sanibel, Florida, to be used down in that area. And as I think everybody knows from last meeting, the Industry Ready building is now housing Pamlico Air's first venture into HEPA filters. And so we've got 2 buildings filled now, where we had one filled and one very empty building in terms of 230 Clark's Next Road, that I was very worried about, as it's an old building, and typically in rural areas those buildings stay vacant for a long time. So the request of the commissioners is to approve and have the chair sign with staff assistance the amended Beaufort County NC Pamlico Yacht Works Performance Grant for $110,000 over 5 years to create 166 new jobs in Beaufort County with an investment of $9.8 million.
Gentlemen, you've heard the recommendation from Martin. Is there a motion? Got a motion? Second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Yes, Brandy.
Martin, I can't see from the picture, but does the manufacturer name that's probably on this yacht, does it reflect Pamlico River, Pamlico, or if you see it down in Florida, do you know it came from here?
The people know it's Pamlico Yacht Works. I don't believe there is any logo on this. We are in the process, as we stated at the retreat, of putting together a Made in Beaufort County marketing program. And one of the things we are hoping to do with that is to have, as you say, companies display their logo, if we can get corporate approval, on the products. I think it will probably be easier on products like this, which are boats, as opposed to something maybe like the HEPA filters, but I don't know. But we're going to try and have that happen.
Any other, John?
I think we're into year 2 right now, right? So this would be the first year of the grant payout?
Yes.
Okay. Has the property taxes been paid?
I believe so.
I mean,
I won't state.
That was one of the criteria, right?
Yes, yes. They have been excellent corporate citizens, and when we were trying to move them out of the IRB and Pamlico Air into the IRB, they were very flexible in helping us. So I will double check on that, though. But the payments won't be made if they haven't paid their property taxes.
Any other comment? Okay. All those in favor of the amended performance grant, raise your right hand. 7-0. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll get you out on a test to run for the boats one day.
Okay, we're down to Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I want to give you a really quick update on our sales tax revenue. We did get the November sales tax numbers today, and the November sales were $950,000 and change. November last year, they were $778,000, so we're looking at an increase of $172,000 or 22%. So sales tax continues to look very favorable for us this year. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Alan Thompson. He's the managing partner of Thompson, Price, Scott & Adams CPAs. He's here tonight to present the results of last year's audit. And you'll have before you the complete audit, which is bound with the black spiral, and then the black folder is his presentation materials that he will be going through tonight.
So good evening to everyone. And I am going to jump from this presentation summary. The main thing you do ask us as an audit firm to do is issue an opinion on the financial statements as a whole. We did issue an unmodified report, which is a quote-unquote clean report. And having said that, if you'd be kind enough to flip to page 1 in the presentation summary, there were no significant audit findings. On page 2, no difficulties encountered in performing the audit, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. Management did provide us with a representation letter dated November 30th. We're unaware that management consulted any outside accountants, auditors, etc. And under other findings or issues, there were 2 technical items on Medicaid that were findings in the audit report. We did review that with their staff, and they did provide us with how they're going to mitigate that, which included a training on, I think, December 15th of this past year. And with that said, if you would be kind enough to flip to page 4. On page 4, I don't say that these are all the key numbers by any stretch of the imaginations. These are some of the key numbers inside the report. And to put it in context, we put the 4 prior years' audit reports beside that so that you got a feel for it. You see the fund balance in the general fund is $25,303,000. The unavailable fund balance is $4.3 million, restricted and committed at $4.8 million. Total general fund expenditures at $58,759,000. The fund balance available as a percentage of your general fund is 35.68. The unassigned fund balance at $20,463,000, and the unassigned fund balance as a percentage at 34.83%. Revenues over and under expenses before other financing sources in the general fund, a positive $5.5 million. Solid waste, $320,000. Water districts, $174,000 positive. Cash and accumulated depreciation, your water, total fixed assets, $85 million. Accumulated depreciation, $24.9, and cash at $8,954,000. Cash in the general fund is $25,341,000. That's the highest of any of the 5 years presented. Cash in your water districts is $8.954 million. Solid waste, $680,000. And cash other governmentals is $5.7. And other governmentals can vary depending on the status of projects, etc. And then fund balance here, though I say net position, water districts and solid waste, realize that on both your proprietary funds, what you're really looking for there is cash flow, because you got significant amount of fixed assets which can make your net position look higher than from a fund balance standpoint when you look at the general fund, because what you're looking at includes all your fixed assets less long-term debt in that net position. So fund balance again in your general fund is $25,303,000, and net position in water districts is $30,112,000, and the solid waste is $1,014,000, and other governmental funds at $7,098,000. Next, you see your property tax rates. Collection percentage there at 98.1. Collection percentage excluding motor vehicles is 97.93. Then you see your valuation and levy amounts, and then a breakdown of debt, which excludes compensated absences and OPEB at $53 million. If you were to go back to 16, you would see that $61,698,000, so a declining amount there, which is great. So if you took anything away from this top page, you'd see that fund balance has increased and your debt is decreased, which is a good thing. On page 5, you see a breakdown by department of your general fund revenues and your general fund expenditures there, with total general fund revenues at $62,547,000 and your general fund expenditures at $57,018,000. If you'd be kind enough to flip over to page 6, see a graph on the top of that page, total fund balance in blue and restricted and assigned in red. You can see where it's trending back up. On the bottom of that page, you see the analysis of fund balance as a percentage, with Beaufort County there in blue and your group weighted average there in red. The group weighted average for 6/30/2020 is not out. On page 7, you see that analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage. They're at 34.83%.
I'm sure you already know that the minimum state statute amount's 8.33%, so nowhere close to any of that, which is just simply 1 month's expenditures. On the bottom, you see analysis of revenues over and under expenses before transfers by the general fund, solid waste, and water district, all three being positive for the current year. On page 8, you see total fixed assets in your water district's fund there, accumulated depreciation and cash on top. On the bottom in a pie chart, you see cash balances and fund balances / net position with the respective numbers underneath that. Total cash at $40,695,000. Total fund balances there at $63,528,000. And again, in your proprietary funds, unlike your general fund, that's not spendable money as far as fund balance, and you can see the difference there between cash and your actual net position. I will say this, though I rarely, if ever, address it. In your audit report in Exhibits 1 and 2, we convert the general fund to a business type activity. It's called government-wide statements. Very few people ever have interest besides the bond underwriters in those statements because you as a board budget on an annual basis, you're interested in fund balance, cash flow, etc. Somewhere in the past, 15 years ago, somebody smart thought they would convert the general fund to a business type activity, and that's what those first two statements are. Rarely see anybody use them, so somewhere in New York, I guess in underwriting, somebody does actually use them. On page 9, you see the property tax rates with the county in blue, the group weighted average in red. And on the bottom of that, you see the collection percentages, same thing, county in blue, the group weighted average in red. And on page 10, you see the property value and the levy amounts on top with the debt analysis on the bottom of that. And you can see the business type activities being the larger portion of the debt there. And then on page 11, at the top you see the total general fund revenue, and you see why there's such an emphasis on the collection percentages and following the other various things, because ad valorem taxes make up 59.41% of the total general fund revenue. On the bottom you see the breakdown by percentage, with education being the top and human services being next. I'm happy to answer questions, not just tonight, but as you read through the report, if you have questions, please feel free to give me a call. If I happen not to be at the office doing something like this, ask them to give you my cell number, and I'll get you an answer on whatever question you may have.
Questions of Alan?
Alan, is the dates on the obligations, the debt, are they in the big book?
Yes, sir. Okay. There's in the notes to the financials, probably about halfway through, you'll see the detail on each debt obligation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. She said page 55.
One of the numbers that we've started looking at, actually, Alan, combining the amount of debt service related to the schools and to the college with the educational budget. The majority of that 4% is related to education, so you can see that it's roughly 37%.
Yes, sir.
Close to 37%. When you look at the debt analysis, the $31,215,000, that's primarily our water, related to the water department, right? Is there anything, can you remember, is there anything else in there besides water? How about the college, the USDA loan? Okay, this is on page 10. On page 10. The very the bottom graph.
So on page 10, that that $31.2 million, that's the limited obligation bonds for the water district.
For the water.
Yeah, it's all.
The $3.95 million in the purple just above that is the AMI project where we did the installment financing to do that infrastructure project. The $1.65 million next to that is, they are the revolving loans for the water districts. And then, of course, the $12.334 million in blue, that's the school bonds. And then the red is the USDA loan for the Allied Health Building at the college.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Good job, Alan. Thanks for bringing some good numbers.
I think it's all working. I did forget, in this environment, not only the finance staff, but all the staff were very kind, cooperative, and did a great job, and we very much appreciate that. And we appreciate you allowing our firm to do the audit.
Thank you. Anita?
That's all I have, unless you have more questions for me.
Any questions of Anita or Alan before he departs? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're down to Brian, the urgent repair program.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request on the North Carolina Housing Finance Administration Urgent Repair Program for 2021. For reference, you'll see in the agenda item, the first paragraph talks about an existing program that we're under, that the Wooten Company is managing for us, and that's the 2019 Essential Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool Program. It is similar to the program we're asking you to participate in. It provides an interest-free, debt-forgiven loan to eligible homeowners. That is, folks who meet the requirements, elderly, disabled, or veteran, or they have a child 6 years of age or older and there are lead hazards in the house. Under the existing program that we're under, they have to be at or below 80% of the area median income, but there are some property requirements that may kick those folks out of that project. They can't be in the 100-year floodplain. There are other pieces that would kick them out of that program. The North Carolina Housing Finance Agency also provides what's called the Urgent Repair Program, and it is similar to the one that we're currently under with Wooten. But it targets the same group of folks, but at 50%. They can't exceed 50% of the area median income. You've actually done this program before, the county has. It was done by the COG last time we did it, and at that time, the board approved a $10,000 match. The soft costs associated with this program only allow $1,000 per resident for the engineers to look at and to manage the program. So back then, the COG asked that you provide an additional $10,000 so that you could match that $1,000 soft cost with another $1,000 so they could manage the program. Wooten has requested the same thing, so it's a $100,000 potential grant. So what we'd request is that you allow us to move forward with applying for the program. Actually, Wooten's already put it in because the deadline snuck up on them. If we're awarded, we'd ask you to match that with $10,000 like you did the Mideast Commission when we were under that program, so that we'd be able to pick up some of those homes that have been kicked out of the original program because of structure issues related with that program. So we'd recommend your approval and answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, second?
I just have something I want to say. I've sat here all these years. I voted for these programs when people sit in their houses, won't lift a paintbrush to keep the house up, let it rot down. And we've sat here and we keep voting these programs that come back and fix up people's houses when they're too lazy to look after themselves. There are plenty of other programs out there. I'm not going to vote to put county's money into something when people won't help themselves. I'm just too much welfare. It's just too much giveaway.
Got a second. Just one comment, Hood. It says they must be occupied by the elderly, disabled, or a veteran full-time household member.
Well, all that may be true, but you can go out and take a 30-year-old veteran and qualify for this program. So it's, I've seen a lot of these, so I know what I'm talking about. I'm just not going to vote for it. You guys can take the taxpayers' money and go out and give it away if you want to.
Any other comments or question for Brian? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Vote was 6-1, Katie. Brian, you want to move into the next one? Next item.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is a request regarding, it's actually a piggyback off your previous one with the Health Department. So previously in the agenda, the Health Department proposed providing a one-time payment to employees under the hazard pay piece. What I would bring to you is that there are 6 members of the Emergency Services Department that have worked side by side in this program with the Health Department staff, supporting all of those operations. They are not eligible under that AA, and it would be equitable in my mind that if you were to approve that AA, which you did for the Health Department employees, that you would approve it also for these 6 Emergency Services employees. That would come out of general fund because it is not eligible under the AA that comes from the state. Roughly $7,200 based on the same amount you did per person for the Health Department. That would be 6 individuals in emergency services that have been identified as supporting those operations consistently.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion. Is there a second before we get into discussion? I'll second the motion. Ed?
We said that they was out there, work side by side, was out there the full time. I mean, to your knowledge.
To my understanding, they have been there as much as they've supported those operations as much as the folks there. Yes, some of our folks, several of these folks are out there at the exact same time. They're working the stations with them. So those 6 we identified as the ones that would be eligible under our belief.
And the second piece of the question, who requested it? I mean, Jim stood up here and requested for his folks. Who requested for these folks?
I am requesting that for them. Based on Jim's comments, it was an equitable. It was me saying that if we're gonna do that for Health Department employees who are doing that, then we ought to be equitable in the same group that's supporting those operations. So it was me.
Based on Jim's comments tonight?
Based on the Health Department's request for that additional funding, it was in my opinion that it would be inequitable to take the exact same folks, although because they were in a different department and not eligible, that we ought to at least, the board ought to at least address those as well. So it was me that brought that forward.
So the funds that we're getting coming out of our general funds, they don't qualify under the same category that Jim people qualified as?
That's correct. That's why it's a separate agenda item. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'm assuming based on what I saw at the college that we're operating 2 locations. And I know I saw 2 at the college, that we have some in the operational and logistics side being at both locations.
I saw more than 2 out there, but I was only
Hood?
Did the EMS people, did they get a hazardous pay bonus?
The overall, the county employees received a one-time payment. This is specifically related to this. EMS in general did not get anything additional beyond what all county employees received.
These guys got what all county employees got too?
That's correct.
So this is an addition to the addition?
As is the Health Department, yes, sir.
Other questions? John?
When we say they're working side by side, are they administering shots or are they back in the tent filling syringes?
They are not administering the shots because the nurses are the ones that are administering the shots, but they are handling the logistics, or they are signing folks up on exits, or they are managing moving trailers around and doing all the operations support for that operation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the last board meeting, the board asked staff to look at information about streaming the meetings live. We did that. We had a conversation with the City of Washington. They currently have a public access channel that they control. They currently use a service provider called Vimeo to provide their streaming service. That service costs $75 per month. It's billed on an annual basis. It would allow us to do a direct live stream into the city's public access channel when you are in session. It also, as you can see, the benefits of the Vimeo service, it's unlimited live streaming, unlimited live viewers. You can live stream to multiple destinations. The really nice thing about it is it allows you to publish natively with one click to that list of social media outlets, as well as what's called RTMP, which is the direct feed into the cable system that the City of Washington has. It provides unlimited bandwidth, up to 1080p streaming. You can embed it anywhere on like any website you want to do that, which we would anticipate doing it on our website as well. There are no ads in this, so you're paying for the service. You're not having to have ads on it either before, during, or after. And it does provide an analytics dashboard that would allow you to see how many people were actually viewing it and those different kind of things. So we've had conversations again with our hardware vendor that we are good to go with everything in the back. We just needed a service to point it toward, and that was the recommendation of the City of Washington that would allow us to work with them on using their site as well. So we'd make that recommendation to you that you go with Vimeo.
Yes.
So the feed is such that you can send it to every website, every media source that can figure out a way to take that feed, right?
You can. My understanding is you can embed that anywhere in any website as long as the board said that. I mean, we would expect the board to tell us where you wanted to live stream that information.
Well, but I think that would be on whoever's on the sunshine list, wouldn't you?
It's up to the board. I mean, our thought was that you would, and you tell us, we currently record the meetings. They are sent to the cable station. They are sent to the City of Washington. They're currently not live streamed now, so we anticipate we would live stream them to the city. They said they could do that. Then you have the opportunity to do it at Facebook. We currently archive at YouTube, any of those other social media sites that you wanted to use, you could, and any other website that you wanted. I mean, we would just need some general direction from the board. If somebody asked us, can we live stream your site? If you said yes, we'll send them the link. Yeah. You just need to let us know.
I'll make a motion that we do it, providing that we send it to everybody on the sunshine list. It's up to them to figure out a way to create a receptacle for the feed.
Second. Okay, got a motion and a second?
I got one question.
Yes.
Whoa. Can we amend that in case we have more people that want to come on? Because getting it to more sites are better than less.
Yeah, but
a lot of people getting off Facebook.
The Vimeo handles the people, if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, but we have to approve it. I guess.
Well, that's what we're getting ready to do.
We're just perfecting the motion.
Yeah, I'm just perfecting the motion to enlarge it for more people later. I don't want to restrict access.
Okay. My question is, who gets priority if the city council has a meeting at the same time as we do?
They do. It's their site.
Their date currently is a different date, so I don't think we'd have that issue. If we did, obviously they would have priority since it's their channel. But I wouldn't anticipate that being an issue because we're on the first Monday night and they're not.
Okay.
Second, Mr. Chairman, just real quickly, just to clarify, Commissioner Deathridge's motion to send it to the Sunshine List. The Sunshine List is a list of folks that we send notices to. We don't necessarily send a link to them. What I took you to say was if anybody who calls us and says, I'd like to embed that, that's what you're saying, not just randomly send it to the Sunshine List, because they may go, I don't know what to do with that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, let them have the option to receive create a portal. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be some work on their part to be able to express it, expose it. Your butt. Oh, yeah.
Any other question before we take a vote? All right. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Vote vote 7-0.
That'll be our intent, yes, sir.
Okay, we're down to, gentlemen, we're down to the next item, update on the employee concealed carry. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At the last board meeting, there was a resolution that was passed by the board regarding support of concealed carry for Beaufort County employees in county government buildings. We were asked to go back and do some research on this. We have done that in conversations with the county attorney, as well as in conversations with Martin Wharf, who is the attorney with Nelson Mullins, who has done some work for the county before. Essentially, the attorneys have advised us that the Board of Commissioners, as this is written, do not have the authority to do what you have asked to do. Under General Statute 14-415.23, statewide uniformity, and I'll read that to you. It is the intent of the General Assembly to prescribe a uniform system for the regulation of legally carrying a concealed handgun. To ensure uniformity, no political subdivisions, boards, or agencies of the state or any county, city, municipality, municipal corporation, township, village, nor any department or agency thereof may enact ordinances, rules, or regulations concerning legally carrying a concealed handgun. A unit of local government may adopt an ordinance to permit the posting of a prohibition against carrying a concealed handgun in accordance with GS 41511C on local government buildings and their premises. So essentially what the attorneys have said is, for you to subcategorize a county employee as someone who could conceal carry on county premises, you don't have the authority under general statutes to do that. It's either all or nothing. So what is under this motion, you don't have that ability. If the board said we want to do away with, because you currently, as I understand it, concealed carry are prohibited in county buildings. If this board so chose to say we want to do away with that prohibition, then anybody and everybody would be allowed to conceal carry in a county building, except for those that are restricted by statute already. And those would be the statutes, there are multiple statutes relating to it. But the biggest of those are courthouses, law enforcement agencies or correctional facilities, state and federal offices, and school grounds. Now, so that is where that stands. If you so chose to amend that and say you wanted to do away with that prohibition for everyone and allow that, we would still want to come back to you based on the conversations with the attorneys and bring you some language related to concealed carry for employees. So you're not restricting them. They had some pretty good language from one of the other states that essentially then makes it a personnel issue. Issues relating to carrying need to be addressed if that is so the desire of the board to allow any and everybody to do it. Under a personnel policy, we need to add a couple things in there to address it. So that's our report. County Attorney, or I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Yes.
Didn't Cherokee County and some 3 or 4 other counties in North Carolina do something in this area in the last couple of years?
The only one I'm familiar of recently was Pitt County, and Pitt County had a prohibition, and last year before last, they did away with theirs and said anybody and everybody could conceal carry. Now, the county attorney may be able to answer something relating to that. I'm not aware of Cherokee County.
Okay.
Are you? Did I understand you? Are you saying that we can't open it just for employees? We have to open it up to the public as well as employees, everybody?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The state in its policy and its statute relating to uniformity says that it's either all or nothing. They're the ones that regulate that. If you do have the ability as a board to say you cannot conceal carry in a public building, and that's essentially where we are right now. You can either say we're going to continue that or we're going to do away with that. But when you say you do away with that, that means anybody and everybody can conceal carry because you can't subdivide further down. The statutes don't allow you to do that.
Would it be appropriate to get our attorney and the other attorney to draft a new resolution for us to approve that would meet that criteria? Is that?
I think what we would look for, if we're certainly glad to do that, to give you the language in that, if it's the board's desire, and that's what we're looking for. What is the next step from the board? Is it your desire to leave things the way they are, or is it your desire to do away with your current prohibition of concealed carry in county buildings? If it's your desire to do away with that, then we could bring back to you a resolution that would essentially state, you have that authority under the statute. You now have decided not to exercise that authority, and it is now open for anybody and everybody under the laws of North Carolina.
John?
Stan, wasn't that the original resolution you had?
Yes,
I think, except you added in social services, because they made an appeal to the board.
There was one version that did. I don't know whether the last one or not, but there was one that did.
What's the wishes? It appears that we need to come up, if we wanted to include all, then it appears that we probably need to have another motion or either put it on the agenda at the next month after they draft a resolution.
I can support including all and doing away with it altogether.
I think Brian is asking for us, before they go to all the legalese and gyrations in that respect, to see if we have a consensus on the board to go with all, just take down the signs on certain buildings and go from there.
You want to make a motion? Someone make a motion?
I make a motion that we allow concealed carry by all Beaufort County citizens who are duly licensed to carry firearms on certain such buildings that we agree to.
What about people from out of the county?
Well, I think they would be able to carry in North Carolina as well, so we might need to amend that.
Yeah.
Just take out Beaufort County citizens. Allow duly licensed people to conceal carry on Beaufort County government buildings that we do so choose to exclude. I don't know if that's the right language or not.
Stan,
I think you're just asking.
Stan, I think they're looking for guidance. Can we just have a vote that they proceed to do all and let them draft?
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll bring it back.
Got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Are you clear? Okay, all those opposed, I apologize.
Against,
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I understand that what you want us to do is bring you back a resolution that essentially states that you are no longer prohibiting concealed carry, and then you would allow any and everybody who is so qualified under the state law to be able to do that. The question I do have for you is, are there exemptions beyond the current exemptions that are in the state, courthouse, law enforcement agencies, school grounds, things like that? Are there exemptions that you want us to put in there as well? I've heard social services. I just need to understand as we come back to that resolution, if that resolution says you no longer are prohibiting that under your authority in the statute, then it opens it up for everywhere that's not already prohibited under the statute, which would include the comment about DSS.
Well, it's my opinion that we don't need to tinker with the general statutes. The general statutes are clear, as the manager has just alluded to. So I say and if we want to change that at the next session, we can. But let's just go with as basic as we can keep it right now.
I like this. To ask you a question. You said the courthouse, law enforcement.
You might.
Courthouse and law enforcement was exempt. I mean, that means they can, we understand they can carry their guns anywhere they want to. I mean, as far as in the line of work duty.
We won't be able to go in there
No,
with our
I'm
guns.
talking about law enforcement.
Yeah.
So if I had carry concealed, I couldn't carry my pistol in the courthouse.
No.
Okay.
Now, that's crazy.
That's correct. Under the state law, courthouse, you're not allowed to conceal carry. Now, a bona fide law enforcement officer is allowed to carry their weapon
But I
anywhere.
got you. That's what I was trying to see. This thing was, I couldn't visualize this thing that where somebody got a gun, I can't carry one where they got a gun, but I'm sitting here and have a gun, and everybody can bring it in. That's what I'm trying to
Ed, if
do.
you walked in the courthouse with your gun, 5 judges would jump out the 3rd floor window. I mean, come on.
Okay, gentlemen, are we finished, Brian?
I just want to be clear that that when we bring that back to you, we would also like to put in some language relating to that's been recommended to us by the attorneys on the personnel policy side, talking about actions.
Yes,
that we're not encouraging that, nor are we discouraging it. We're allowing it under state statute, but we're also are very aware that if there are actions taken by an employee that may be inappropriate, using that, whether it's intimidation or those kind of things, that those will now fall under a personnel policy, and that we have the ability to take those actions as needed, and that's not infringing upon their state rights to carry a weapon.
Would you recommend that we run that by our liability carrier?
That's what I was going to ask. Same thing.
Before or after we go to the next step? Because at some point, to me, they need to review the policy, especially as it relates to the employees.
Typically, I can have a conversation with our liability carrier. We typically don't run our personnel policies by them because they don't get into those. They're going to defend us based on whatever we have. The county attorney takes a look at those, and again, this was a piece of a policy related to HR that was recommended to us from Mr. Worf. So
I got you.
We'll bring that back to you as well, because that would need to be a part of the county's personnel policy, which you would have to adopt as well.
Well, I was going to ask the same thing that Frankie asked. In case, what about an employee, you drop a gun in the floor or something, shoot somebody in the leg? I want to know, are we liable? That's the point. That's where I thought you was heading with it, Frankie.
Answer is it depends.
Yeah.
They also can bring it in here, right, to our county commission meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
They can come here in our commissioners meeting with a concealed weapon. That's what I thought.
If they're permitted. These people are permitted and vetted. It's not Joe Six-Pack.
How many commissioners have a concealed carry?
Are you sure you want to divulge that here in public? I don't really think we ought to talk about that here.
Well, I think that's entirely up to you, whether you want to do it or
Frankly,
not.
you're making a target out of commissioners is what you're doing.
Well,
you don't need to do that. That's not smart.
I consider myself to be as smart as you, Hood. Yeah, I really do.
Based on what you just did,
Yes,
Chairman. I've been a commissioner a long time. We have people in our audience a lot of times that are that I know, and those folks, if they were concealed carry, I'd feel very safe in here. I really would. We need to worry about that from time to time, and there's a number of people out here right now. I'm looking.
Be careful, Stan, because
I would feel very safe.
He says you're not smart if you point that out.
Well, I'm not.
You're not smart.
I'm not identifying anyone. I'm just identifying we have a good group of people to come to these meetings.
Right. Okay, we're down to David. You've got some property you're going to sell?
Mr. Chairman, we also had 2 items that were pulled that you wanted to put under this, I think.
I'm sorry.
So
they were
we can
hoods.
address those.
Item number 4.
Consent agenda.
Item number 4 was the purchase order over $30,000. That's on page 13. Hood?
Yeah, what are we buying for this money? It looks to me like we're buying something that I don't want.
Okay, that is the 911 system. That is emergency medical dispatch and emergency fire dispatch.
But it says we're getting 20 vets or something, and then we're getting 5 more vets. We're getting like 25 vets every month or something for this. What is this? Just saying it's emergency management doesn't quite do it.
Well, it's not emergency management. It is, once we, I guess in 2015, when we decided to start getting into emergency medical dispatch, there was a software element that came to it, whether it's through Pro QA or several other things. That what that money does is that is the procedures, that is the protocols, that is the what we do, what we can do, that is the quality assurance piece, that's the training piece, that gives us the right to do things like when someone calls 911 and they're dealing with someone who is unresponsive. If we didn't have that in place, then we really weren't in a position to offer guidance and talk people through CPR. If someone was having a stroke, all we could do was say, help is on the way. And they go, well, my loved one needs help is on the way. Well, what can we do? Help is on the way. So it actually got to the point through the system that we do, through entry into the CAD system, that we can give advice. We give better information to the responding units through the protocols and the questions that are asked, so we can give information that leads the first responders, whether it be EMS or fire, to make sure that they have the appropriate personnel and equipment with them when they get to the call, as opposed to bringing everything in. And so it's almost, if I could simplify it, if you use Microsoft Word, then you have to pay for a yearly bundle like Office 365 that you pay a certain amount, and those are the services, those are the software services that you get. This is the bundle that goes along with emergency medical dispatch and emergency fire dispatch, so we can utilize the functions, get the training, everything that goes along with it. And that's going to be a yearly cost. We had initially, there was a cost that goes along with the training, and then there's yearly maintenance fees and updates and things like that. This was in the budget. It was approved in the budget, and quite frankly, if we didn't do this, then we go back to answering the phone and telling people that help is on the way.
Well, Charlie, I heard what you said, but what we're buying for $32,000 is expert case review and reporting for 20 cases per week. This sounds to me like somebody is taking 20 calls and sitting down and saying, did the employee do a proper job of answering this call and asking the right questions and knowing the right information to give back out? And then there's another in here, additional 52 weeks, so we're buying like 1,800 over a year's time. Call reviews is what this really is. I mean, what you described sounded to me like the software, and this is not software.
Well, the description of what you're given is actually accurate. It is. But that goes along with the overall program that we have. What you described is the quality assurance piece to these calls, where it's not just left to our people to say that we did a good job. That it's almost like the equivalent of a peer review for like your EMS committees and things like that. That is what was described in the works that you have. But the monies goes towards everything.
I guess where I am with this is, I don't know the exact number, but it seems to me like we're paying somebody $60,000 a year to supervise this unit.
Sure.
And we're paying them $60,000, and then we're paying another $32,000 for somebody to do what I think we're paying them to do.
I disagree with your assessment.
Well, what is the benefit of these reviews? What is the benefit?
Well, the benefit of it is that if you don't have this module, then you don't get the rest.
You don't get the what?
The quality assurance piece that goes along with it is attached to emergency medical dispatch and emergency fire dispatch. The quality assurance piece has to be done, otherwise they're not going to allow you to use the products that they have because their liability and their reputation for their service and product is on the line.
I disagree 100%. It's our liability. It's not their liability. They're providing a piece of software.
No, but I guess I'm just going to the point of if you want, like, I'll use my initial example. If you want to use Outlook, if you want to use Microsoft Word, then you will pay Microsoft money to do that.
Yeah.
You know, this is part of that for this program.
Well, why do we
this
need
is the program.
Why do we need to pay for the software and then pay for these reviews when we've got staff over there going out our years, very high-priced staff? What are they doing?
They are doing their job and doing it well.
What is that?
Well, if you would allow me to say words without interrupting me.
Sure.
You know, you've asked the question. So our staff, our telecommunicators, the supervisors of those telecommunicators, and the people who run the telecommunications office, which, by the way, 911 is a county function. It's a county function that we are doing, and we are doing well. I've invited, and I will invite anybody from the commissioners, from the public, anybody who wants to learn more about our 911 center and what our telecommunicators do. All they have to do is call me, email me, write me a letter, send me some smoke signals. The more people that I can teach about what they do, I think the more that they would be encouraged by where we are as a 911 center and the things that we have going on. So our employees do a great job. Our supervisors do a great job. The folks who run the 911 center does a great job. And part of the reason that I know that is because I'm not hearing from commissioners all the time with complaints or concerns that you have about the 911 center. So I, you know, but they're not the same thing. They are not the same thing. It's like, you know, it is a part of the process. They have independent auditors. You have to pay to play, and you have to pay to do EMD. You have to pay to do EFD. You have to pay to make sure that the auditors can come in, take a look at what we do, just not unlike the presentation that was done earlier, you know, about auditing the books and stuff that you do that. That is important. It's important for transparency. It's important so people have the understanding and base knowledge that if they do make a 911 call, that everything is going to be done properly from the time that call is over until the time the call is done. And that's just part of the process. I apologize that you don't have the information that you felt that you needed to going into this. I didn't put the matter on the agenda. And you had plenty of time that if you had questions or needed anything further, all you had to do was ask, and I would have provided whatever you needed on top of the information that you had.
Well, it just looks to me like we could provide the same kind of audit of our employees for $5,000 or $6,000 a year by contracting for spot audits. Then this is a lot of stuff here, and I think it's overkill on a grand scale.
Randy?
Are you saying that if somebody were to call tonight and say, I think I need to do CPR, that we couldn't help them? We just tell them?
No, with EMD we can. But
okay,
prior to 2015, we couldn't.
Okay, so we're logged on to this folks now.
Yeah, and doing it well.
Okay.
This is just sort of
This is just an update annual
cost
fee.
of the pay to play.
This is the third year, if I remember correctly, Charlie.
Oh yeah, it's been approved in our budget each year.
Okay, gentlemen, we need a motion. We need action on it. So, got a motion? Is there a second? I'll second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, 5-2. All right, the next one that was moved for decision was the salary grade list correction. Dolores and Hood, this is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. On January 4th, 2021, the Beaufort County Commissioners approved the salary and classification study performed by the MAPS Group. This included the new classification and salary grade list, which was also submitted for approval. Upon further review of the MAPS grade list, it was noted that some of the, there were some updates needed. The processing assistant 4 classification was listed twice in error, once under the salary grade 59 and then again under salary grade 61. The classification of processing assistant 4 should be listed only once under the salary grade 59 with the state. In order to keep the sheriff's office rank structure in place and to avoid the mixing of position titles, as in the recommended plan, we request to changing the title of Deputy Sheriff Commander to Lieutenant at the same recommended salary grade 74, and changing Deputy Sheriff Division Supervisor to First Sergeant at the same recommended salary grade 71. And thirdly, adding the classification of Deputy Sheriff Major, grade 76, and Deputy Sheriff Captain, grade 75, which were in our current salary plan. Due to the study being over 3 years old, these classes were not included in the study. Approval of these changes would not cause any changes in current or recommended salaries. And the submitter recommendation is we recommend approval of these changes to the MAPS group classification, salary, and grade list.
Hood? Well, the reason I had this thing pulled is we're back to these arbitrary raises that the sheriff gave. And the reason we've had to create these 3 positions, and then I have a question for you when I finish this, is because we have wrecked the employee classification system. And that is making sure that employees who are working in social services and other departments that are doing a comparable level of work to people in the sheriff's office are fairly compensated. And based upon these raises of $8,000 and $10,000, $15,000 increases that were given to employees in the sheriff's department without a vote of this board, we have wrecked the employee classification system. It is meaningless. And we must have a lot of employees in a lot of places who are unhappy. Now, my question is this. Why is it that people are wearing lieutenant's bars that are classified as captains in the payroll study? Why does the sheriff upgraded these people and given them captain's rank instead of lieutenant's rank? Because the schedule that y'all sent me is calling people under different titles than the insignias that they're wearing.
I'll defer that question to our county manager.
I would have to defer that to the chief deputy. I don't have any control over the rank structure at the sheriff's office. What we're trying to do is, when Ms. Veazey came and looked at it, she made recommendations of things like deputy sheriff commander, and that's what the sheriff calls a lieutenant in his organization. So it didn't make sense for us to have some rank in there, which we had corporals and we had sergeants, but we didn't have lieutenants and we didn't have first sergeants. So it didn't make sense in the program to have a mixture of those. We either needed to show all rank or we needed to show some other description of what they did. And it was our recommendation that you show rank. The rank equates to where they would be in the program. This was studied by an outside group, the MAPS group, to determine where people should be in the market and where they should be in the study, and this is where they go to. So again, as she noted, there are no changes in any salaries or any class. This doesn't impact current or recommended salaries.
Chief Rose, would you like to address what's on the bar, on the little bars?
Not really. I guess I'll start off with, for years, between our agency and the county office, we've tried to get where what we are in the real world is what we are on paper. And we still haven't got to that point. The sheriff or a sheriff has the authority to call his or her people whatever they want to call them. They can use whatever rank structure. There's some sheriff's offices that don't use rank. You just got a sheriff and then you got deputies. You got some that's a sheriff and then sergeants. You got, if there's 100 different sheriff's offices, and there's probably 100 different thought processes on that. We are still trying to get where on paper we are what we are in real life. Right now, the structure is, the sheriff, the chief deputy, a major, a captain, lieutenants that run the divisions. There are now three civilian directors that would be in the same rung as the lieutenants. First sergeants or assistant directors would be underneath that. Supervisors, assistant supervisors, or sergeants and corporals, and then deputies or detention officers or telecommunicators. So there is a rank structure for every division that we have. We have changed names of what folks were called in the 6 years that the sheriff has been the sheriff. And I would love for that to go on forever, but if the sheriff came in tomorrow and said, you are now admiral, you are now second vice admiral, you are whatever, then the sheriff has the authority and the right to do that. That wouldn't make it easier on the staff who's trying to keep the org chart right. I hope that was an answer to your question.
Okay, this is an action item, so we need a motion to approve the changes. Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Votes 5-2, Katie. Thank you, Dolores. Okay, David, now we're down to bids and offer on property.
Yes, sir. We have on page 250 of your book, there are 8 pieces of property that have been bid on. I would point out that the next to last one, which is Reed number 22364, River Road, Richland Township, has already been raised, coming to you from 600 to 1,000. So that one should be 1,000. These are all minimum bids, and if there's no other bid, this is what they'll be sold for. But our experience is that several of them are going to be raised. So you're approving minimum bids on these 8, if you approve it.
Any questions of David? If not, we need a motion to approve these offers, or at least to go to the next step of advertising them in the paper.
So moved.
Got a motion? Second. I'll second it because I don't want to be here at 3 o'clock when he starts sleeting outside. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed, well, it's 7-0, Katie. You want to go to the next item, the amended item, David?
Yes, let me find my notes here.
This is on the tax property valuation settlement.
Right. This is something we've been working on for months. What has occurred is that the property owners, whose name is Sloan, have agreed to set the value of their, this has been a back and forth situation. They've agreed to set the value of their home for taxation at $966,000. That's approaching the 1 million, if you will. And is my recommendation, along with your county assessor and the retained attorney for the county, that be approved.
Got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second.
Question.
Discussion. Hood?
What was the construction cost for this?
We think it's $1.3 million. Now, that includes
I know.
all the concrete and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, and this was what, 2 years ago that it was completed?
Yes. Well, they live in my neighborhood, so I see things come and go.
Yeah.
So it's, but it's mostly coming, so it's probably changed a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
It was completed roughly January the 1st of 18, if I remember.
I think it was, I want to say it was 19. They owe, I think, 19 and 20 taxes. I say they owe. They may have already paid some of those. I don't know. They have some options.
Any other question? All right. We got to, go ahead, Stan.
Yeah, this is the market, I mean, this is closer to the market approach that we saw. It's hard in Beaufort County to do a cost approach and it be accurate because they're never going to get that kind of money. That market approach is the best, highest and best way to appraise any piece of property. I would like to I wish we could go in between here. There's no way to split the baby, so to speak.
Well, we sort of have. I mean, we were
Not that much.
We were above that, and they were below it, and this is split it right in the middle. Is 966.
So, yeah, I think it's closer to the low end. I don't think we're even close to mean here.
Well, we've got a motion, so if you want to change it.
I'll vote for it just because I don't want to get a bunch of attorneys involved. And I think the market's picking up and it's changing. I think there'll be houses selling for a lot of money. And one day when we do a revaluation,
They'll be back.
yeah, they're going to be unhappy, I'm afraid.
Well, this actually is looking back how many years?
I think
2. Looking back 2 years ago.
Yes, and it's probably changed.
Yes.
And it probably will continue to change.
One last comment. You know, if these people can come in and tell you they're going to pay you 75% of what it costs to build their house, why can't everybody else in Beaufort County get the same kind of service? You know, that's a problem I have with this. If you build it and you put your money into it, you need to be able to pay taxes on it. If you can afford $1.3 million for a house, come on, what about my house? Do I get 25% off of mine?
Well, we've had an outside appraiser come in, and you've already told me I'm not smart, so I'm not going to go there, but an appraisal is not an exact science. You get 3 appraisals done on the same property, and it will vary. Question it is whether it'll vary 10% or 5%, but it will vary.
Mr. Chairman, though, this is new construction, so what better value is there of anything when you purchase it new?
Every appraisal, when it comes to the market, is adjusted. And that's basically what Stan said, is that, you know, it's better to, I mean, in this kind of, with this price range, you're really dealing with a market, not necessarily cost. So, okay, we got a motion. I mean, Ed?
I felt like hood to begin with. I really did. But when it come back 906, and my final number hood was 1 million. But when it came back 966,000, I think we will lose money with the $34,000 that I'm holding out for. So that's what I was holding out for, 34,000. But I'm like Stan. We'll be fighting lawyers from now to doomsday.
Any other comment before we take a vote? Okay, all those in favor of the settlement, raise your right hand. Those opposed, vote 6-1.
5-2.
Oh. Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. I apologize. Every time I look over there and see that mask. Okay. Katie, we're down to your item. Resolution in support of NCACC Presidential Initiative to promote food system resiliency by our neighbor Ronnie Smith over in Martin County.
Yes, sir. The North Carolina Association of County Commissioners president is leading an initiative to address the food system resiliency in North Carolina. And what he's asking for is each county to adopt a resolution that I've attached in support of the initiative to promote food system resiliency and to support a task force in the coming year. If you'd like, I can read the resolution.
We'll pass on that. Okay, we got a motion to approve the resolution. Second?
I'll second.
And a second. Questions?
I just have a statement.
All right.
You know, I know Ronnie Smith, and I respect Ronnie. He's a bright guy. But I've sat here for 2 or 3 years, and I keep hearing that 25% of the people in Beaufort County are starving to death. School system comes in here spending millions of dollars to feed for food, and I'm finding out the parents are eating the food, not the kids, is what people are telling me. And everybody is running around with trying to convince me that we're starving to death in the United States. And quite frankly, including myself, all I see is a bunch of fat people. So, and then here we are again saying that we've got people that are starving to death. So I cannot support this. This is another one of those initiatives that is put up by liberals, and the purpose is to get control of us. When the schools start feeding children meals 365 days a year, that is socialism, folks. You can call it a good deed, and oh, isn't it wonderful, and you can just, your little heart can just bleed right out. But that is getting control of families. That is socialism, and I'm not supporting this kind of stuff, because if there's a nation on the face of the earth that's got more food than it knows what to do with, it's the United States. And it's another one of those fake things. It's fake news is what it is.
Anyone else? Okay, it's time to vote. All those in favor of the resolution, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2. The next item is the release of the hiring freeze. That was on the agenda at the last month's meeting, which I was not here. So I'm bringing that back for a vote. There was a tie vote before. What I'm asking to do is unfreeze those positions up to what was passed in the budget, and that total number was 382. 382. So I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
And we have a second. Discussion.
I still think we're due for a comeuppance economically in the United States. I mean, the numbers look good right now, but for some reason jobs are being cut willy-nilly, and we find more and more socialism creeping into our government at all levels. People are going to stop hiring. I mean, $15 minimum wage for the federal government. That's not going to happen in North Carolina, but if it does creep into North Carolina, you're going to see a lot of people not working. Can you afford to pay your lowest man $15? Can you, Hood? I can't. So, what we need to do is set here in the government, we don't need to hire anybody right now. We got a lot of employees. We got plenty. So it's across the board, hiring freeze, until we go into budget, as far as I'm concerned.
Mr. Taylor, you're not talking about expanding.
No.
What you're saying is the one that we passed this past year. Mr. Manager, how many openings we got?
This is what I'm talking about, Ed. This was in our budget. 382.
I'm sorry, I don't have that exact answer. If the HR director's still here, I'm not sure she's here. She may be able to tell you. No, there's maybe 1 or 2, as far as I know.
John?
I think, how many do we approve this today already?
Since we had the freeze, I've never seen us turn down one.
We've never.
Have we turned down one?
So, and Stan, you said that home values are going to go up because there's going to be a boom. What? You can't have both. So what now? You said home values are going to go up because there's going to be a boom.
home values I think will go up in our area because of what's happening in the blue states. People are migrating to North Carolina, but that doesn't mean that this area is going to do great. Some people are going to have money. You're going to have the haves and the have-nots in this area. And government doesn't need to grow accordingly.
We're not growing. We haven't stopped hiring anybody.
I agree. Well, I would go with that. We just stop hiring folks in Beaufort County government. I'd be very happy with that.
Okay, any other question, comment? Time for a vote. All those in favor of unfreezing, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Vote was 4-3. Katie. We're down to items for decision discussion. Commissioner Rebholz.
I think we've all had people complaining to us about the quality of service of Suddenlink. It came up during the retreat, I think Thursday. And the way the structure is that the Attorney General of North Carolina is charged with overseeing the cable companies. My view, he hasn't done a very good job at all. Okay? And so this is a request that we join 2 other counties that have already done this, 2 other municipalities, I'm sorry, that have already done this, and send a letter to the Attorney General requesting that he investigate the practices of Suddenlink and start there. So the letter's here.
Second.
You made a motion.
Sounded like a motion.
So, yeah.
Okay, and Hood seconded the motion. Do you have Suddenlink?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do too. It's all.
Any questions? Is there anything that you want to add to the letter?
Yeah.
I support John wholeheartedly, but I don't know, what is the major complaints besides the too high?
There's 10 in this letter.
Yeah.
10.
We'll take it.
I would like to say,
If you want to add something.
The one complaint I get more than anything else is they make promises and don't keep them.
can I add one thing?
Yes.
It's not in here.
Yes.
And you might want to add it, but one of the reasons I got rid of Suddenlink is I was paying a lot of money and only watching a few channels. The channels are terrible. I mean, that might be all they have, but I think there's some better channels out there, and they're really not interspersing new channels at all. And usually when they drop a good channel and bring on junk. The 600-pound, the 1,000-pound marriage, that kind of stuff.
I think we have more in the letter than may be read anyway when it gets there. So let's take a vote on it. All those in favor of the letter, raise your right hand. Katie, that was 7-0. John, solid waste.
When we were, back before we disbanded the Solid Waste Committee, there was lots of discussion going on about, and I think we heard it from Christina at the retreat, about the costs that we're incurring because of the bulk. Okay. And part of that has been attributed to a lot of bulk sometimes coming from out of the county. So I checked with a couple of other counties, one being Madison County. They had a similar situation. They're up in the north, or up in the far west of the state. They had a situation where trash or bulk waste was coming in from other counties, and they had a process where you had a card you had to show. Okay? That's a copy of it there. And they didn't enforce it, and there was no change. Finally, after their costs started going up, they decided to enforce this and put out notices. They handed them out at the sites, telling them that on such and such a date, you're going to have to show this card if you come in to dump into bulk. They reduced their costs on the bulk by over a third by doing this. Okay? And what I would make a motion is that we ask Christina to follow up with this type of thing. I'm not wed to this card. It could be like a handicap type sticker that goes on the mirror, something like that. But investigate this, investigate what it would cost us to do it. They do it through the tax office. And when somebody pays their bill, which includes their solid waste fee, they print out this card and send it to them. But I would ask Christina motion that Christina investigates this. See, no matter what we do on solid waste in the future, we're still going to have this problem, potentially this problem. And we can continue to reduce that.
Excuse me, Jerry, were you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Jerry?
Well, the only problem I have with it, I don't have a problem with the card, but attaching another $180 to...
No. This would be solid waste.
So once you pay the solid waste fee,
That's what this is just Madison
Okay.
County at $180.
Okay.
Now, they say that, they admit this isn't perfect. I mean, somebody could give the card to somebody outside, but it's still, in principle, with good communication, reduce their cost by a third.
Okay, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
I got
Yes.
Now, when we talked at the retreat about solid waste, we were talking about possibly closing some sites or having some sites open for one day in certain areas. And I was thinking we could possibly have unmanned sites where you have a card. And
We ruled that out.
we have ruled that out before. I mean, a card that would actually be, would actuate the gate and it open. I don't know. So that's been ruled out before?
It's not allowed by the state anymore.
Oh, it's not?
It used to have the green box system, remember?
Yeah.
Where you just go around dumping in there. They don't allow that anymore. They have to
Okay.
be manned sites.
There's too many things go on.
It needs to be manned. All right.
Do you want to correct your comment about closing a site? You want to go on record of closing sites?
Oh, well, I thought we were going to talk about closing. We were talking about the mega sites, and some sites would be closed, specifically sites that are closest to the other counties, where we're getting a lot of dumping.
I think the consensus is we were not going to do anything like that until we had 2 mega sites.
Exactly.
Yes.
But we are kind of looking ahead with this.
Right.
So yeah, I'll go on record at some point that we might have to do some closing. Yeah.
Yes.
John, when you look at this, Madison County is not large and mild. I mean, when you said that they cut it in half or they went down, how many sites did they have versus, our county is real broad compared to Madison County?
Yeah, Madison County is about half the population that we are. They've got 10 sites.
Okay.
Still.
If you can make it work in Madison County, you can make it work here. I'll spend time there.
Okay, we've got motion. Any other discussion? Yeah, Jerry second. John made the motion and Jerry second. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Okay, we're down to Hood.
Mr. T.
Hood.
Yeah. This concerns the Brenda Hamilton death. And, I don't want to report too much on this. I think the manager and Charlie probably know as much or more than I do. But I think all that we need to submit right now is, all we need to talk about right now is that we think the final investigation will be finished before the next commissioners meeting, and it's better not to speculate until the final word comes in. Would you guys agree? I mean, you're welcome to disagree.
I would defer to the chief deputy.
Chief Rose.
You can't miss that opportunity when you say you knew more than him.
I think on this one, I think we're all sort of on the same page. That Commissioner Richardson has made contact with University of Florida. We've gotten information. I think that information has been shared. I have hopes that they'll have a written report, soon. I think that the holidays did delay them a little bit, but I think we're just waiting.
Yeah, we're just waiting.
Just a note for the people here in the public, Brenda's husband, Ray, came down with the COVID and passed away, but he does have 2 daughters that I'm sure are still waiting on an answer. But okay, next item is the jail door repair.
Well, my concern in the jail door repair is to keep the pressure on this thing, because I don't want to wake up one morning and find out the jail's been emptied again by something I didn't know about. So I would ask the county engineer, if she's here, and the chief deputy, do you have any problems in the jail, in operating the jail, or with the jail doors?
Christina just walked out. I think, that there have been minor issues that have come up, and I think that's going to be the case. You got metal on metal moving around each other. Just like with any other maintenance issues that we have, we're pretty aggressive on sending emails, making sure that maintenance is taken care of, and I think that right now all of the groups are working. They're working to make sure that system works for a long time. I think that's the goal of everybody involved.
Okay, next item?
Yes.
Next item is, this is a discussion item. We may ask for something toward the end of it, but county police force discussion. With all of the problems that we have had since I've been a commissioner, and for a long time before I was a commissioner, with sheriff in Beaufort County, there may be some benefits to the county having a county police force instead of a sheriff. And for those of you that don't know the history on this and how it works, the Constitution gives the sheriff certain duties, and that is to serve warrants or serve papers and to run the jail. That's all that the Constitution gives to the sheriff. So the sheriff jumps up and beats his chest and says he's a constitutional officer. Okay, run the jail and serve papers. The sheriffs have inherited, mainly because there was no other place to put it, law enforcement. And that has sort of grown with them. Commissioners, there have been laws passed that give the sheriff certain rights in doing law enforcement. He's entitled to 2 deputies and 2 cars, and that's one of the major things that's in the law. But we have had so many problems with sheriffs, at least since I've been a commissioner. There may be a benefit in having a county police force. Now, this is done that I know of 2 places in North Carolina. Mecklenburg County, which is, of course, a big metropolitan area, so the sheriff would overlap the police anyway, so that just made sense to roll it all into a police force. And Gaston County. Now, Gaston County had a lot of problems with sheriffs, and I've talked to commissioners in Gaston County, and they say they are very pleased with their county police force. This would work almost exactly like the city police forces. The good news about it is the county would hire the police chief, and you could have a police board for oversight. It could be commissioners, it could be anybody, a small board. The public would have a say in how it is done. Right now, the deputy system with the sheriff, and I freely admit that the sheriff has to have the deputy system just like it is now, because that deputy is the same person as the sheriff. When he goes out, makes an arrest, or does anything else, he is the sheriff. So the sheriff does have to have total control of that individual. With a police force, the policy would be a lot easier set. You would have records right now. When sheriffs change, sometimes when a new sheriff comes in, there aren't any records left over from the last sheriff. You lose a lot of continuity in cases. You lose a lot of continuity in investigations. With a county police force, you would have continuity. Individuals, instead of being at the whim of the sheriff, and I've seen people fired not just from one sheriff, but from several sheriffs, because they heard a rumor that this person said something about him, so he just fired him. Person has no rights whatsoever as to whether that was truthful or not. And with a county police force, the employees would have of the police department will have a lot more protection than they have now under the present system. The public could be a lot more involved You know, sheriff's been running $100,000 in drug funds now for 15 years. That's $1.5 million. There's not a single person in this room that can tell you how that money is spent, unless it's Charlie, and he won't admit to it. How much is left over? How much is rolled back? How is it managed? Simply because the sheriff wants to be a bully and not give out the information. Well, I have the answer to that. You just don't give him the $100,000, but unfortunately we have commissioners that don't see it that way. We have serious drug problem that could be a lot easier handled with the county police force than with the sheriff's department. Murder investigations sometimes go awry. So what I'm saying to you is we owe it to the taxpayers to look at this. And what I'm asking tonight is if this board is willing to appoint a committee of 3 people, I'd like to be on the committee, of 3 people to take a look at this. Now, it's not easy to do. It will take special legislation in the legislature because all of the statutory laws that have evolved over the years presumes that the sheriff is going to be the peace officer for the county. Everything is couched into that. So you have to have a special legislation to back out Beaufort County from the present law and so that you can go more to the municipal law. It's not going to be an easy thing to do. But I think we need to look at this and see what the implications are and see whether or not we want to do it.
You want to recommend 2 other people? You got 2 other people that want to serve on this committee?
I haven't thought about it.
Anybody else want to serve on that committee? Randy?
Anybody else? I'll do it.
Okay.
You got it.
All right, we got the 3. Anybody opposed to the 3 that's been nominated? Let's vote on them. All those in favor of these 3 serving on it, raise your right hand.
Now, let's have a little discussion about what we're empowered to do, because we don't want to go off across country.
Well, you're not empowered to anything. Remember, the commissioners have the final say. You are a research arm.
Well, that's correct.
You're a research arm.
What I wanted to cover, but we have the right to go far and near to get the information that we need.
As long as you don't need money. Now, if you need $50,000, you got to come back for a budget amendment.
There could be travel involved.
Right.
But other than that, I don't see where we need anything.
Okay.
But we will come back to the board with a report.
All right.
Do you think you need a charter that outlines that? Can you do that?
The board designate staff. If we need help from the staff, then, you know, of course, that's usually goes with these committees, but I'd rather have it said rather than unsaid.
Well, I mean, I think what you need to do is have a committee meeting and go to it.
Okay.
Come up with a charter, who's the chairman. Okay. The next item is the lockdown.
So, is that me again? What I want to do is to essentially rant and rail about the lockdown and what it has done to the people of this county, what the handouts that the government, they're really nice. I'm like the rest of you, I get the handouts too. They're really nice when they come along. But we are destroying ourselves with the lockdown. The governor is helping to destroy us with his orders of you can't open this and you can't open that. We need to get back. Right now, it would be very easy to go to what we should have been doing to begin with, and that is the conventional quarantine of people at risk and the quarantine of people who have been, if you will, exposed, and let everybody else do whatever they want to. Let the restaurants open. We've done this thing totally backwards to what we should have done. The numbers of deaths in Beaufort County, everybody to my knowledge I was at a Board of Health meeting last week, everybody to my knowledge that's died in Beaufort County from the COVID, no one has died exclusively from the COVID. They have all died. They've had comorbidities. That is, they had a heart condition or they had diabetes or there was something wrong with them in addition, and the virus is what did the final damage. And what I would like to see us do, and what I'm discussing right now, so I'll be open for a motion, we really need to go back and approach the governor and say, we need to go to the standard method of handling these things, and that is end the lockdown and impose the power that health directors have now to quarantine people and quarantine the people that are at risk, because the damage to this hasn't been seen yet. It takes about 2 years to go bankrupt, because during that 2 years, you have to lay your hands on every asset that you have and use it and spend it. We haven't seen the terrible thing that's going to come out of this yet. In about a year from now is when we're going to see the terror with this. And that's going to be a lot of people whose lives have been destroyed, whose families have been destroyed, whose children are uneducated because of the excesses of what's going on, and it's gone on too long. So, I'd like to ask the board, would someone make a motion that we reverse the lockdown and go to the standard methods, and that we implore the governor to do this, and that we send whatever we decide to do to all 100 counties?
You're speaking about, we aren't right now locked down. I don't believe in Beaufort County. But are you saying that for future, if this should happen in the future, and this won't be the only pandemic we have, I predict there'll be more, because this one was so successful for the people that perpetrated it upon our country. I think we're going to see more of these. And if we react again like we reacted this time, we're going to be pickings for whoever perpetrates this against us.
I thought restaurants couldn't open.
No, they're open. They're open.
They have to close at 10, but they can't open. Well, at any rate, I think it's timely that we do a resolution and we get it off to our legislature, the governor, and everybody else after all the legislature's in session, that we never have another one of these lockdowns.
We did a resolution to open, Katie, can you remember 2 months ago? Yeah. We passed a resolution to open up.
I would like special emphasis on the schools, when you write your thing, especially the schools.
Well, that's a completely separate resolution. We've got one as it relates to opening up, and that did not include the schools. That was business related. So,
well, maybe what we need to do then, I don't disagree with what you guys are saying, because these things get to be real fuzzy over a period of time, is that we do a resolution just for the schools to reopen.
I think that's appropriate to consider that.
I don't have a problem with doing that, but I feel helpless with what's going on, because things are not right.
They haven't been right.
So I move that we do a resolution, a letter. We can do it as a letter the chairman can send to our legislators and to all 100 counties, imploring the governor to please allow local decisions on the opening of schools.
Well, since we don't have a resolution in the book and it's not really an agenda item, will you agree to bring that back at our next meeting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You want to go to the resolution on county borrowing?
Oh, yeah. This is the same resolution as on your last month. We had 6 commissioners present, so I guess, Jerry, we're going to find out what you're going to do on this thing this time.
No, it's me.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Oh, you weren't here.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to find out what you're going to do this. That's right. Jerry officiated. So it's the same resolution. I'll read the therefore on it, which is the last paragraph. Therefore be it resolved that with the exception of those loans specifically described in Article 5, Section 4 of the North Carolina Constitution, it is the policy of the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners that any major borrowing by the county shall only be done after it is approved by a bond or other referendum of Beaufort County citizens. And of course, this is like most resolutions, as I understand it, it will only apply until a new board comes in 2 years. Because we can't find another board.
Are you finished?
Yes.
Questions, comments? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Yes.
In North Carolina, we have guidance from the Constitution, what we should do, and I think the people will demand it when large sums of money are proffered for large public projects. So I know there's some people, and it all started with Mark Basnight years ago when he allowed a workaround to do this, and it really hasn't worked well in North Carolina. It might work in some very rich counties, which are more in the Piedmont, but in some of the poor counties, which I would like to offer to you that Beaufort County is a county of haves and have-nots, and that's going to, and Hood's talking about things that are going to be happening 2 years from now. I would like to segue into that, saying we're going to see even more haves and more have-nots. And we represent all the folks. And when people can't find work, they cannot exist. And they can't afford to pay the amount of money it's going to take with raising their taxes. Now, if they get a chance to vote, I mean, we're a republic. They elect us to make decisions for them. And then on some issues, the state gives them the right to have a pure democratic method to vote themselves, whether they need to endure the pain of a large public project. And they may be in favor of it and they may not, but it's their decision to make. So what Hood's resolution states, and what I seconded, is that we follow the Constitution exclusively. So I would offer that we need to do that.
When you say a big project, our water departments started out with $36 million. I'll repeat that, $36 million. Did that go to the vote of the people? Did the people vote on that?
Yeah, I think it was by district. It was a district. It started off as district's taxation, and I think the district had to vote for the tax to begin with.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever voting.
Yeah, it was by districts.
Is that right?
Districts.
Well, I'm opposed to it. I mean, we've got the Constitution. We also have the state statutes. So I want the tools to be whatever is in the best interest of our citizens. And we are elected by the people. And, they empowered us to make certain decisions. So I'm not going to vote for the resolution. So it's time to vote. All those in favor of this resolution, raise your right hand. All right. All those that are opposed to the resolution, raise your right hand. The vote's 4-3. Okay, we got a motion and a second that did not come back up for 6 months. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, 4-3.
The Constitution told me I could do this.
No, it didn't. The board rules. I'll send you a copy of the Constitution.
Since I was not here at the last meeting, I'm not sure everybody understands. Kathy tested positive, and we did not have the results back until Tuesday morning following the commissioners' meeting. And 5 days later, I had the symptoms, and I got tested, and I was negative. And the only difference between the two of them is I'm O positive. O positive. So if you got O positive, there's a good chance that you might be able to resist it.
Oh, that's very positive.
Okay. Okay, Stan, we're down to your resolution.
All right. I'm going to do that this time so people can hear me. A lot of people are disgusted with what they're seeing in Washington, D.C. right now. We were promised there'd be unity. We're seeing that there's disunity, nothing but disunity in Congress and the executive branch as well. We found that months ago there was an election that was somewhat irregular in many respects. It upset a lot of folks in America. They probably aren't going to get over it. And I think that people in Congress know that they're not going to get over it, so they want to cut the head of the snake off. and that would be the 45th President of the United States. Now, that's all well and good if they could do it. I mean, let's say that it's not a unifying feat at all when you've got 74 million people that voted for someone, the most votes any president has ever gotten in an election, and lost. And like you've heard from the audience, some people will counter that. But that's not the question. The question is there are people that feel that they are disenfranchised, and they still feel that they want to be part of something. Now, there's a group in Congress right now who wants to stop that. They want to regulate the way people, what they say and what they think. And the best way to do that is to take President Trump and impeach him. The problem with that is it's an unconstitutional act at this point. And my resolution states that, and it states why. It also states that the Chief Justice will not be part of these proceedings in the Senate when the trial is heard. And why? Why is the Chief Justice not going to be part of it? Because it's unconstitutional. It's not something he does. He's the ex-president. He's gone. The impeachment is there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to remove the president. He's been removed. Rightly or wrongly, he is gone. Okay? So, in the hope for unity in America, and we all need that in this nation, we need to come together. I wrote this resolution that we be resolute and together on this one issue, that it needs to end. It needs to end now, because it's only going to get worse. Do I think that the Senate is going to convict ex-President Trump? No, there's not going to happen. So why don't we go on record wanting it to be over? Now, I'm very strident in my opinions, and I wrote a resolution that was a little bit strident, and I've talked to our chairman. Our chairman gave me a few pointers early on, and I'm going to agree to those pointers because I want his vote. I would like for this to be something we can all embrace. So I'm going to read the resolution with the pointers to make it less strident. It's a resolution in condemnation of the snap impeachment of ex-President Trump and demand that the U.S. Senate immediately arraign this complaint and move to dismiss as unconstitutional. Whereas the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives performed a snap impeachment of soon-to-be ex-President Donald John Trump with no hearings, no discovery of evidence, no witnesses called, no investigation by any entity whatsoever, and no defense for then-President Trump allowed. And whereas the Democrat-controlled House of Representatives did impeach Mr. Trump on one specious article of impeachment, accusing the ex-president of inciting an armed insurrection with his words for this event previously planned by radicals far removed from this president. And whereas the impeachment of ex-presidents is considered unconstitutional by the brightest constitutional scholars, so much so unconstitutional that Chief Justice Roberts has prescribed in Article 14 of the U.S. Constitution that he must preside over the impeachment of the president, will instead refrain from presiding over the trial of ex-President Trump. And whereas candidate Joe Biden did dramatically promise to promote unity to heal the nation, has forged headlong in an opposite direction of that promise. Therefore, let it be unequivocally resolved that the Beaufort County Commissioners, understanding well that all politics are local and in full representation of their constituents, are hereby resolved to stand in condemnation of the snap impeachment of ex-President Trump, and thereby do demand the U.S. Senate immediately arraign this complaint and move to dismiss as unconstitutional. And then we send this to the, not to the people in the state, not to our state government, governor, forget those guys. It goes straight to our delegation representing North Carolina.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make that a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, John made the second. Katie, you got the changes Okay.
Can I send it to you? I've got them all taken out. You've done it? Okay.
Any other questions? All right, it's time to vote. All those, huh? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2.
You can offer an amendment if you'd like.
I took out some words that I thought would encourage you guys to vote for it.
You wouldn't too smart.
Anyway, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, which one made the motion, Katie? All those in favor, raise your right hand.